We are back, but we did lie. I don't know if it caught that for a second, but hello everyone, we're back. We did lie. It is not Kaylee, it is me again. And it is in fact Wednesday. And not Tuesday. Oh well. Unfortunately Tuesday we had some difficulties in life. Therefore, we decided not to stream yesterday, but all is well. We're doing great. So welcome back. We're gonna be continuing Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. It's 8:11 in the morning right now, and I have class at 12:15. So we're gonna read until like 11. We're gonna see how far we get, and then whatever is not finished, we'll just have a really long and really fun Friday night, afternoon slash night, whatever. But anyways, you can actually see me this time. I decided to not be on the floor. I'm in my desk chair, so this is going to be very interesting if I need to fidget, but oh well. But we're on chapter 9. So it begins. Say hello to my little friend. Actually, not that little. She's quite large. But she's going to be my reading buddy for the day. And also, I don't have water prepared. So we will see how this goes. Let's get into it. I let the model float in the middle of the room. The xenonite is nearly indestructible, so I don't need to worry about it bumping into anything. Is this a good idea? I have a planet to save. As awesome as it is to meet up with intelligent aliens, is this risk worth it? The Iridians clearly understand astrophage, at least well enough to make engines out of it, and I think they're trying to tell me they're here for the same reason I am. They might have information I don't know. They might even have the solution I'm looking for, and they seem friendly enough. But this is the interstellar equivalent of a stranger offering me candy. I want the candy information, but I don't know the stranger. What's my alternative? Ignore them? I could carry on with my mission as if I never saw them at all. They're probably as spooked to see me as I am to see them. They might continue trying to talk, but they wouldn't get hostile, I don't think. Or would they? I have no idea of knowing. No, this is a no brainer. I've got to at least have a conversation with them. If they have any information about astrophage at all, no matter how minor, I have to talk to them. It's a risk, yes, but this whole mission is a risk. Okay, so what would I do if I were them? I'm an Iridian. I want to build a tunnel that connects to the weird human ship. But I don't know what the human ship's material is made of. How can I guarantee any kind of attachment or seal? My xenonite knowledge is beyond dispute, but how do I connect it to humanium or whatever that ship is made of? I've sent the human xenonite models, so he knows what I have, but I still don't know what he has. They'll need a sample of my hull, and they'll need to know it's a sample of my hull. Right, I say to no one. I don't know if this is a good idea or a terrible idea, but I'm going to knock a chunk of my hull off. Okay, Ryland. I grab a set of EVA tools. They live in the lab in drawer 17E. I found them a while ago. They're on a tool belt that can clip onto the EVA suit and everything. Straught and the gang made sure we had all the equipment we would need for hull repairs if needed. Normally, it would be Ilyukina's job to fix stuff, but she's gone. Huh, random memory. Ilyukina was our engineer, our fix-it gal. Okay, well now it's me. He says fix-it gal, but he's actively about to destroy his own ship. I get back in the EVA suit and back outside again. Bouncing in and out is getting kind of annoying. I hope this tunnel thing works. I make my way along the hole, one tether adjustment at a time, and I get to thinking, what good is a tunnel exactly? I doubt we have compatible environments. We can't just connect the ships with a tunnel and shake hands. I think there's a lot of ammonia over there. And then there's the temperature. Those cylinders are hot when I get them. Some back of the napkin math tells me that first cylinder they sent should have lost 100 degrees Celsius or more during that 40-minute trip, depending on what temperature it started at. And it was still hot when I got it. So it was really hot when I left their ship, like way higher than the boiling point of water. I try not to speculate too wildly, but come on. I'm a scientist and these are aliens. I'm going to speculate. Do Iridians live in an environment hotter than the boiling point of water? If so, it proves I was right. The Goldilocks zone is bullpucky. You don't need liquid water for life. I should be more focused on the first contact with intelligent aliens thing or the save all of humanity thing. But gosh darn it, I can spend a moment to be happy about being right when everyone said I was wrong. Bruh. I finally reach a spot of hull that seems right for the job. I'm aft of the entire pressurized portion of the ship, well past the part where it widens out. If I'm right, I'm standing on a big empty tank that used to be full of astrophage. If I breach the hull here, it shouldn't matter. I pull out a hammer and chisel. Not the most elegant way to do this, but can't think of anything better. I start by putting one corner of the chisel on the hull and giving it a little tap. There's a notable dent. It doesn't take much to get through this outermost layer. I use the hammer and chisel to separate a 6-inch circle of hull material. There's a layer of something underneath. I can feel it with the chisel, probably insulation. I have to pry the circle out with my chisel. The underlayer holds strong, but then gives way suddenly. The hull sample flies off into space. Shoot! I leap off the ship. I don't think that's a good idea, but okay, sir. I get a hand on the circle right before my tether snaps tight. I breathe for a second, thinking about how dumb I am. You are dumb. You are being very dumb right now, Ryland. Then pull myself back along the tether to the ship. Looking at the circle, it seems like there's a light, foam substance attached to the underside. Styrofoam, maybe. Do they use styrofoam for spaceships? Is that a thing? Do they actually do that? Probably something more complicated than that. Okay, I was about to say I would hope it's more complicated than that. I hope you guys watched all that, I say, because I'm not doing it again. I throw the hull chunk at the blip A. By doing this right in front of them, they'll know for sure that I'm sending them a sample of the hull. I hope it's enough for what they want to do. I don't even know if they wanted it or needed it. They might be looking at their screens right now and saying, "What is this idiot doing? Is he poking a hole in his own ship? Why?" I stay in the hull and watch as the chunk tumbles in tail light. Forgot he called it that. The multi-armed robot on the Blip A's hull, slides along its rails for the reception. Once positioned, it waits for the hull chunk to arrive and makes a perfect catch. And then, I swear to God, it waves at me. One of its little arms waves at me. I wave back. It waves again. Okay, this could go on all day. I head back toward the airlock. Your move, guys. Their move is taking a long time and I'm getting bored. Brother. Wow. I'm sitting here in the spaceship in the Tau Ceti system, waiting for the intelligent aliens I just met to continue our conversation. And I'm bored. Human beings have a remarkable ability to accept the abnormal and make it normal. I look through the controls of the radar panel to see what other features it has. After some digging through preference dialogues, I find what I'm looking for, the proximity warning parameters, currently set to 100 kilometers. Fairly reasonable. You would expect things to be millions of kilometers away, tens of thousands at the very least, so if some rock is within 100 kilometers of you, there's a major problem. I change the setting to 0.26 kilometers. I worry it'll reject the setting as too low, but it doesn't. I stretch my back and float out of the pilot seat. The Blip A is 271 meters away. If they get closer than 260 meters, or if they send another present that gets within that range, the proximity alert will go off. I don't have to sit here and stare at the screen anymore. The control room will blare a warning when the Blip A does anything interesting. I float down to my dormitory. Food, I say. Our boy, the food-motivated king. The arms pull a box out of their little stash in the ceiling and stick it to my bunk. Someday I should look around in there and see what's available. For now, I kick off the ceiling and float down to the float down to the food. The box labeled Day 10 Meal 1 has a Velcro-like strip on the bottom that helps it stay in place on the bedsheet. Oh, does the bedsheet just have Velcro? Okay. I open it up and see a burrito. Not sure what I expected, but okay, burrito it is. Turns out it's a room temperature burrito. Beans, cheese, some red sauce. All pretty tasty, really. But room temperature. Either the crew doesn't get hot meals around here, or the machine doesn't trust her recent coma patient not to burn himself on hot food. Probably the latter. I float up to the lab and put the burrito in the sample furnace. I leave it in there for a few minutes before pulling it out with tongs. The cheese bubbles and a cloud of steam slowly emanates it out in all directions. I leave the burrito to float in the air and cool. I snicker. If I really wanted a hot burrito, I turn on the spin drives, do a EVA, and hold the burrito in the light emitted from it. That get it hot really quick, as in it would get vaporized along with my arm and whatever else was in the blast range, because flashback. Welcome to Little Russia, said Dmitri. I can't believe he just, first of all, that he got a burrito this time, just like a straight burrito. And second of all, that he thought about taking it outside and vaporizing it for a second. My dude. He needs the aliens. Bro needs to talk to somebody. Welcome to Little Russia, said Dmitri. He gave a theatrical wave at the aircraft carrier's lower hangar deck. The whole space had been repurposed into a bunch of labs full of high-tech equipment. Dozens of lab-coated scientists toiled away at their tasks, occasionally speaking Russian to one another. Dmitri's denizens, we called them. We probably put more effort into naming stuff than we should have. I clutched my little sample container like Scrooge with a bag of coins. I'm not happy with this. Oh, hush, said Strahd. I've only made 8 grams of astrophage so far, and I'm supposed to just give away 2 grams of it? 2 grams may not seem like much, but it's 95 billion astrophage cells. It is for a good cause, my friend, said Dmitri. I promise you will like it. Come, come. He led Strahd and me through to the main lab. The center was dominated by a huge cylindrical vacuum chamber. The chamber was open, and 3 technicians mounted something to a table inside. Dmitri said something in Russian to them. They said something back. He said some other thing and pointed to me. They smiled and made happy Russian sounds. Happy Russian sounds. Then Strahd said something stern in Russian. Sorry, said Dmitri. English only for now, my friends. For the American. Hello, American, said one of the technicians. I speak of English for you. You have fuel? I gripped my sample container tighter. I have some fuel. Strahd looked at me the way I look at stubborn students in my class. Hand it over, Dr. Grace. You know, my breeder doubles astrophage population over time, right? Taking away 2 grams now is like taking away 4 grams next month. She pulled the container out of my hand and handed it to Dmitri. He held the small metal vial and admired it. This is a good day. I have looked forward to this day. Dr. Grace, please let me show you my spin drive. He gestured for me to follow and bounced up the stairs into the vacuum chamber. The technicians exited one at a time to make room for us. All is attached, said one of them. Checklist is done. Ready for test. Good, good, Dmitri said. Dr. Grace, Miss Strahd, come. He led Strahd and me into the vacuum chamber. A thick, shiny metal plate leaned against one wall. The middle of the chamber had a round table with some kind of device resting on it. This is spin drive, Dmitri beamed. It wasn't much to look at. It was a couple of feet across, mostly circular, but with one side of it cut flat. Sensors and wires came out from apertures all over the place. Dmitri lifted the top casing off to reveal the innards. Things got more complicated. Inside was a clear triangle on a rotor. Dmitri gave it a little spin. See? Spin drive. Oh, see? Spin drive. How's it work? I asked. He pointed to the triangle. This is the revolver, high tensile strength, transparent polycarbonate. And this, he pointed to a nook between the revolver and the outer casing, is where fuel comes in. IR emitter inside that part of revolver emits small amount of light with 4.26 and 18.31 microns wavelength. That is wavelengths which attract astrophage. Astrophage go to that revolver face, but not too hard. Astrophage thrust is based on strength of IR light. Dim light make weak thrust, but enough to make astrophage stick to surface. He rotated the triangle and aligned an edge with the flat part of the casing. Rotate 120 degrees. This side of revolver, with astrophage stuck to it, now points out the back of the ship. Increased strength of IR light inside. Astrophage, now very excited, push very hard toward IR light. Their thrust, Petrova frequency light, leaves back of ship. This pushes ship forward. Millions of little astrophages pushing on back of ship make it go, yes? I bent down for a look. I see. This way no part of the ship has to be in the blast area of the light. Yes, yes, said Dmitri. Astrophage force limited only by the brightness of IR light attracting it. I did very much math and decided best is to make astrophage exhaust all energy in 4 seconds. Any faster and force will break revolver. He rotated the revolver every time he says revolver, I'm thinking of like the gun. He rotated the revolver around 120 degrees and pointed to the remaining third of the casing. This is cleaning area. Squeegee wipes dead astrophage off revolver. Bink, 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 bink. He pointed to the cleaning area, then the fueling area, and then the open face. All three areas active at the same time. So while this area cleans dead astrophage off this face, fueling area adds astrophage to that face. Another face is pointed out back of ship, providing thrust. This pipelining means the part of triangle pointed out back of ship is always thrusting. Dmitri opened my vial of astrophage and set it in the fueling chamber. I guess since the astrophage will find their way to the triangle face, no special handling was required. He could just let the fuels see the IR. Come, come, he said, experiment time. We left the vacuum chamber and Dmitri sealed it off. He yelled something in Russian, and all the Russians started repeating it. Everyone made their way to the far side of the hangar deck, including us. They'd set up a folding table. It had a laptop on it with Cyrillic writing on the screen. Miss Trott, how far is Carrier from closest land? Dmitri asked. About 300 kilometers, she said. This is good. Wait, why? I said. Why is that good? Dmitri pursed his lips. It is good. Time for science. I love deviating from the question to not answer it. He pushed a button. There was a muffled whump from the far side of the bay, followed by a hum, then nothing. Experiment done. He leaned forward to read the screen. 60,000 newtons of force. He turned to the other Russians. 60,000. I'm assuming that says newtons of force in Russian. They all cheered. Strat turned to me. That's a lot, right? I was too busy staring slack-jawed at Dmitri to answer her. Did you say 60,000 newtons? He pumped his fist in the air. Yes, 60,000. Maintained for 100 microseconds. Oh my god, from that little thing? I started to walk forward. I had to see this thing for myself. Dmitri grabbed my arm. No, you stay here, friend. We all stay here. 1.8 billion joules of light energy was released. This is why we need vacuum chamber and 1,000 kilograms of silicon. No air to ionize. Light goes directly to silicon block. Silicon block? Energy is absorbed by melting the metal. See? He turned the laptop toward me. A camera feed from inside the vacuum chamber showed the glowing blob that was once a thick plate of metal. Whoa, I said. Yes, yes, Dmitri said. That Mr. Einstein with his E equals mc squared. Very powerful stuff. We let the cooling system work on it for a few hours. He uses seawater. We'll be fine. I just shook my head with awe. In just 100 microseconds, that's 1/10,000th of a second, Dimitri's spin drive melted a metric ton of metal. All that energy had been stored up in my little astrophages, slowly harvested from the carrier's nuclear reactor heat over time by my breeder. I mean, the math all checked out, but to see it actually demonstrated like that was another thing entirely. Wait, how much astrophage did you use there? Dimitri smiled. I can only estimate based on thrust generated, but was close to 20 micrograms. I gave you 2 entire grams. Can I have the rest back, please? Brother, let it go. Don't be greedy, Strahd said. Dmitri needs it for further experimentation. She turned to him. Good work. How big will the real drive be? Dmitri pointed to the video feed. That big. That is real drive. No, I mean the one on the ship. That, he said, pointing again. You want redundancy, safety, reliability, yes? So we don't make just one big engine. We make 1,000 little ones. 1,009, actually. Enough for all thrust needed and much to spare. Some malfunction during trip, not a problem. More thrust from the others to compensate. Ah, Strat nodded. Tons of little spin drives. I like it. Keep up the good work. She headed to the stairwell. I stared at Dmitri. If you'd said all 2 grams of that sample at once, he shrugged. Foosh, we are vapor, all of us. Carrier 2. Explosion would make small tsunami, but 300 kilometers away from land, so it was okay. He slapped me on the back. And I owe you drink in afterlife, yes? Ha 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 ha. Huh, I say to myself. We're out of the flashback now. So that's how the spin drive works. I munch on my burrito. So I guess I have 1,000 of those. 1,009. I hear Dimitri's voice in my head. At least that's how many I started with. Some probably went kaput during the trip. There's probably a panel on the spin drive console that tells me the status of each little one. The proximity alert interrupts my thoughts. Finally, I drop the burrito. Drop. It floats where I leave it and launch myself up to the control room. The hatch from the dormitory to the lab doesn't line up with the hatch from the lab to the control room, but there's a diagonal line of travel that will send me through both if I do it just right. I don't get it right this time. I have to push off a lab wall en route. Still, I'm getting better at it. I check the radar panel, and sure enough, the blip A is approaching. Not a cylinder this time. The whole ship is coming my way. Nice and slow. Maybe they're going for a non threatening kind of approach. In any event, it's almost here. Looks like its hull has a new addition. In that diamond part that's as big as the whole Hail Mary, there's a cylindrical tube sticking straight up. The whole robot is still sitting next to it, looking proud of itself. I may be anthropomorphizing a tad. The tube looks like xenonite, patchy gray and tan with grain-like lines running its length. Hard to tell from this angle, but it also looks to be hollow. I think I know what comes next. If they follow the plan they indicated with the model, they'll be putting the other end of it against my airlock. How will they attach their tunnel? My airlock does have docking capability, probably for whatever ship brought me and my crewmates to the Hail Mary, but I can't expect Iridians to know the intricacies of a universal airlock. The blip A edges ever closer. What if there's a mistake? What if they miscalculate? What if they accidentally poke a hole in my hull? Like he didn't just already poke a hole in his hull. I'm all that stands between humanity and extinction. Will an alien math error doom my entire species? I hustle to the airlock and pull on the Eva suit. I'm in there in record time. Better safe than sorry. The blip A is so close now. The telescope screen just shows a patch of mottled hull. I switch to the external cameras. My hull is littered with them. They're all controlled from a window on the EVA panel. Always good to know where your astronaut is when giving them EVA instructions, I guess. I keep wanting to go either say EVA or EVA. Anyways, the tunnel is about 20 feet long, or 7 meters. Man, being an American scientist sucks sometimes. You think in random, predict unpredictable units on based on what situation you're in. The whole robot reaches out with some seriously telescoping arms. I had no idea it could do that. It extends well beyond the tunnel toward my airlock. Not creepy at all. 5 ever-growing alien robot arms reaching for my Front door, no cause for alarm. Each arm each arm's 3-fingered hand is holding something. A curved bar with a flat plate attached on the ends, like a coffee mug handle. 3 of the arms reach the Hail Mary and stick the flat parts of their devices to the hull. Shortly after, the other 2 arms do the same. Then all 5 retract, pulling the Hail Mary toward the tunnel. Okay, so those flat things are handles. How are they attached? Good question. My hull is smooth and made of non magnetic aluminum. Why do I remember that all of a sudden? The handles certainly aren't connected by any mechanical means. Must be an adhesive. And it all starts to make sense. Of course, they aren't going to know how the docking mechanism works. They're going to glue one end of the tunnel to my ship. Why not? Much simpler. My ship groans. It's a 100,000 kilometer piece of equipment that was definitely not designed to be pulled along by its airlock. Will the hull put up with this? I double check the seals on my Eva suit. The control room moves around me. It's not fast, just a few centimeters per second. Hey, for small spaceship velocities, I think in metric, much better than qubits per fortnight or whatever. I don't even know what that means, but all right. I let the wall catch up to me. At some lizard brain level, I like being a little farther from the airlock. Some scary stuff is going to happen on over there. Clunk. The the Iridian tunnel has hit the hull. Clicks and strips follow. I watch the hull camera feeds. The mouth of the tunnel, now firmly held to the airlock aperture, is larger than the entire airlock door. I guess that's that, presuming the glue will hold pressure. They don't even know what my atmospheric pressure is. What's the glue made of? So many questions. I can't operate the control room panels with my EVA suit gloves. I wish I could zoom in or something. I squint at one of the feeds showing the tunnel. It sure looks tight against the hull to me. There's some curvature to the hull that's around that spot. Kind of a complicated shape to make, but the Iridians duplicated it perfectly. These aliens are good. After another minute, the robot arms let go of their handles, leaving them on the hull. A muffled sound comes from the airlock. It's a whooshing sound. Is that airflow? They're pressurizing the tunnel. My heart races. Can my hull handle this? What if their air dissolves aluminum? What if aluminum is highly toxic to iridians and one whiff of it kills them instantly? This is a terrible idea. The whooshing stops. Gulp. They're done. Nothing dissolved yet. I float over to the airlock for a look-see. I had both airlock doors sealed, of course. More protection in case of a breach. I open the inner door and float inside. I peek out the porthole window. The blackness of space is gone, replaced with the blackness of a dark tunnel. I turn on the helmet lamps and angle my head to shine light through the porthole. The end of the tunnel is too close. I don't mean I'm bothered by it. I don't mean I'm bothered by it. I mean the end of it is not 20 feet away. It's more like 10 feet. And while the rest of the tunnel is made of gray and tan blotchy xenonite, the wall at the end is a hexagonal pattern of random colors. They didn't just connect a tunnel, they connected my airlock to theirs, with a wall in the middle. Clever. I close the inner airlock door and with me inside it and depressurize it. I spin the outer door's hatch handle and push. It opens without resistance. The tunnel is a vacuum. At least it is on my side of the divider. I think I see. This is a test. They had all the same concerns I had. Attach it, let me pressurize my half with my air, and see what happens. Either it works or it doesn't. If it works, great. If not, they'll try something else, or maybe ask me to try something. Okay, let's see. I tell the airlock to repressurize. It refuses. The outer door is open. Nice to know that safety interlock is there, but I'll have to work around it. It's not hard. There's a manual relief valve that will just let air from the ship into the airlock. It bypasses all computer controls. You don't want someone to die because of a software malfunction, right? I open the relief valve. Air rushes in from the Hail Mary and, with the airlock wide open, into the tunnel. Within 3 minutes, the airflow slows and then stops. My suit readings tell me there's 400 hectopascals of pressure outside. The Hail Mary has equalized with my part of the tunnel. I close the relief valve and wait. I watch the external pressure gauge. That's the word, gauge. Okay, Natalie. On my EVA suit, the pressure stays put at 400 hectopascals. Pascals. I don't freaking know, man. We have a good seal. Iridians know how to glue xenonite to aluminum. Of course they do. Aluminum's an element, and any species that could invent xenonite in the first place must know their way around the periodic table 1,000 times better than we do. Time for a leap of faith. I pop the seals of the EVA suit and climb out the back. He's leaving the suit? Brother, the strong smell of ammonia permeates the air, but is otherwise breathable. It's my own air supply, after all. I push the EVA suit back toward the airlock. The helmet lamps are my only source of light, so I finagle the suit so the lights stay pointed at down the tunnel. I float over to the mystery wall and reach out to touch it, but stop short. I can feel the heat even from a few inches away. Iridians like it hot. In fact, I'm starting to sweat. The tunnel walls are heating up my air. It's uncomfortable, but not too bad. I can open the Hail Mary's inner airlock door if I want my climate control to take over. Then our life support systems can fight it out. They'll keep it hot side hot, and I'll keep the cold side cold. Even with the sweat forming on my brow and the strong ammonia odor making my eyes water, I press on. I'm just too curious not to. Could anyone blame me? There are at least 20 little hexagons on this wall. They're all different colors and textures, and I think a couple of them might be translucent. I should catalog each one and figure out if I can identify what they're made of. Looking closer, I see there's a definite seam running along the edges of the hexes. That's when I hear a sound come from the other side. Knock, knock, knock. Contact is being made. On to chapter 10. How long are you? Chunky chapter. I say 8 pages, like that's chunky. Anyways, they knocked, so it's only polite for me to knock back. I know that wall is going to be hot, so I wrap my knuckles on it as fast as I can. I knock 3 times, just like they did. There's no immediate response. I take a good look at the hex wall. There are 40 hexes, I'd say, and each one seems to be unique. Different materials, maybe? I feel like I'm supposed to do something here, but what? Are they watching me? I don't see anything that looks like a camera. I hold my finger I hold up my finger and point back to my airlock. I don't know if they can see me or if they have any idea what that hand gesture means. I kick off the hex wall and back to the airlock, and then I open the inner door. Why not? The pressure is the same on both sides. It's okay to leave the airlock open. If there's a pressure loss in that tunnel, the air leaving the ship will slam the inner airlock door shut and I'll get to stay alive. I go to the lab and pack a bag with a few choice items, then return to the tunnel. First, I tape LED lamps to various spots along the tunnel and aim them at the hex wall. Is it not still really hot in there? Are you not burning yourself? Now I can see what I'm doing at least. I pull out my trusty handheld X ray spectrometer and scan one of the hexes. It's xenonite, almost the same composition as the cylinders they sent me earlier. Almost. There are a few differences in the trace elements. Interesting. Maybe xenonite is like steel, lots of different recipes. I check the next hex over. Another slightly unique combination. Best guess, different types of xenonite are optimal for different situations. I had no idea. They had no idea what my air was like, so they want to test various compounds against it. When I leave the tunnel, they'll inspect the hexes to decide which one fares best. That means I should leave the tunnel. Should I depressurize my side for them? Seems polite. I could easily do it. I just tell the airlock to cycle. It would think, golly, there sure is a lot of air in me today, but it would just keep pumping until there was a vacuum. But then again, maybe they have a way of sampling the air on this side. If so, I should leave it there. Or I should leave it here, right? I decide to leave it be. They probably have a sampling technique. If I were making this tunnel, that's what I'd do, and they seem pretty bright. I turn back toward the airlock, but something catches my eye. Movement. I shoot my attention to the hex wall. Nothing's changed, but I could swear I saw something move. Some of the hexes are shiny. I probably caught a glimpse of my reflection. Wait, one hex stands out. Why? It's near the tunnel wall, not very obvious. I float over to take a closer look. Holy cow, I say. Oh my goodness. This hex is clear. All the others are opaque, but this one is like glass. I pull one of the lamps off the wall and hold it up to the hex. I press my head against the hot wall to get a closer look. Bro's getting roasted. Light gets through to the other side. Oh wait, he's probably talking about the lamp head. Anyway, I can see no, he's talking about his head. I can see the tunnel walls beyond. Either their side is a vacuum or their air is clear. Either way, there's something blocking or dulling my view. Suddenly, a rock hits the other side of the hex. It stays there. It's just a few inches away from me. It's roughly triangular, kind of a dark brown, and has rough, jagged edges, like you might see on the tip of a spear from a caveman. Caveman. Have I met spacefaring cavemen? Stop being stupid, Rylan. I mean, I feel like that's a fair. I mean, you don't know what's going to be in space. There could be spacefaring cavemen. You never really know. However, I highly doubt that. Why did they put a rock there? And is it sticky? Why is that your first question? Is it sticky? Are they trying to block my view? If so, they're doing a terrible job. The little triangle is only a couple of inches wide at the thickest point, and the hex is a good 8 inches across. And it gets sillier. Now the rock is bending at articulated joints, and there are two similar rocks that do the same thing, and there's a longer rock attached to them that's not a rock. It's a claw. It's a claw with three fingers. I'm desperate to see more. I press my face against the hex. It burns, but I resist the urge to pull away. There's pain, yes, and it's probably going to leave a mark. Should go back to the lab and find a camera, but come on. No one would have that presence of mind at a time like this. I groan as my face aches, but I'm rewarded with a better view. The alien's claw, or I'll call it a hand, that's less scary. The alien's hand is three triangular fingers, each one with articulation points. Knuckles, I guess. They can close. They can close up. Close. Goodness gracious alive! They can close up into a raindrop shape or widen out to a sort of three-legged starfish. The skin is weird. It looks like brownish black rock. It's irregular and bumpy, like someone carved the hand out of granite and hasn't gone around to smoothing it out yet. Natural armor, maybe? Like a turtle shell, but less organized? There's an arm too. Can you please get your face off of the burning wall? Please. There's an arm too. I can barely see it from this angle, no matter how hard I stupidly press my face into the hot wall of pain. But there's definitely an arm leading away from the hand. I mean, there'd have to be, right? Not just a magic floating hand. I can't take the pain anymore. I pull my head away. I feel my face. It's pretty raw, but there aren't any blisters. Tap, tap, tap. The alien is tapping the clear hex with a finger, so I flick it with my finger 3 times. It taps the hex again 3 times, so I tap again as well. Then comes something creepy. The hand retreats and returns with an object and holds it against the clear hexagon. Whatever it is, it's small. I let myself drift closer to the wall for a better look. The heat warms my face. The object is xenonite, of course. It's about a half-inch high and finely detailed. It looks like a doll, but it has an oversized head and really thick arms and legs. Oh, it's me. It's a teeny tiny Russian Orlan MKS-2 EVA suit. That's all they've seen of me so far. Another hand shows up. Hey, I have 2 hands, so I shouldn't be surprised that they do too. The second hand holds a model of the Hail Mary. It looks to be at the same scale as the figurine of me. The hands then push the little me into the little Hail Mary's airlock. Pretty clear. It's saying, go back into your ship. I give a thumbs up. The alien releases Mini-Me and a Hail Mary model to float away. Then it contorts a hand into something resembling a thumbs up. It's just 2 fingers curled into a ball with the third pointed up. At least it's not the middle one that's pointed up. Could you imagine? It just flips him off. I returned to the Hail Mary and closed the airlock door behind me. I pant and wheeze with excitement. I can't believe that just happened. That's an alien. I just saw an alien. Not just an alien ship, an alien being. I mean, just his claw or hand, but yeah. Well, I say his hand, but maybe it's her hand or some other pronoun I don't have a word for. They might have 17 biological sexes for all I know, or none. No one ever talks about the really hard parts of first contact with intelligent alien life. Pronouns. I'm going to go with he for now because it just seems rude to call a thinking being it. Also, until I hear otherwise, his name is Rocky. Rocky! Good job, Ryland. You have the naming capabilities of the students you teach. Okay, now what? Rocky told me to go back into my ship, so I did. I feel kind of stupid. There's a whole bunch of science I should be doing, right? I peek through the airlock porthole. My lamps are still taped to the walls in the tunnel, and I can see there have been some changes. The hex wall is gone, just plain gone. I can see all the way to the Blip A's hull, and there's a hull robot attached to it, reaching out and doing stuff with his little robot hands. And yeah, its hands look like Rocky's hands, broadly speaking. Three fingers, about the same size as Rocky's hand, probably controlled with a Nintendo Power Glove kind of thing inside the ship. Man, I'm old. The robot takes a particular interest in my lamps. Heck, I take an interest too. Those are alien artifacts with alien technology. Sure, they're just lights, but they're alien lights to my Iridian friends over there. Probably the most exciting scientific find of their history. The robot arm puts them in a little cubby on the Blip A hull and a latch closes. I bet those are going to be the most heavily studied lamps in the history of lamps. I'm glad they got to have that moment of discovery and all, but they took my light source away. I can hear the occasional clunk, but it's pitch dark in there. That's interesting in and of itself. I'm not an alien from 40 Eridani. Oh, stretch. But if I were working with a remote controlled robot, I'd have a camera on it somewhere and a light source to see what I'm doing. But they don't need that. They don't need light. Well, hold on. Their visible spectrum might be completely different from ours. Humans only see a tiny fraction of all the wavelengths of light out there. We evolved to see the wavelengths that are most plentiful on Earth. Maybe Iridians evolved to see different wavelengths. The room could be well illuminated with infrared or ultraviolet light, and I wouldn't see a thing. A robot. Why a robot? They had a living being there a few minutes ago, my boy Rocky. Why replace him with a robot? Vacuum. They probably took all the air out of the tunnel. They have a sample of my hull. They know it's made of aluminum and roughly how thick it is. Maybe they aren't sure if my ship can handle outside pressure, or maybe their atmosphere reacts badly with aluminum. So they keep the tunnel of a vacuum. So they keep the tunnel a vacuum, which means they have to do work with the robot. I feel like Sherlock Holmes. All I saw was nothing, and I drew a bunch of conclusions. Conclusions that are wildly speculative and with nothing to prove them but conclusions. I could get another lamp. The lab has a few more. I could shine it in there to see what Robo Rocky is doing, but I'll know soon enough. And I don't want to be in some other part of the ship. Something interesting happens. Just as I'm thinking that, something interesting happens. Knock, knock, knock. No, that's not creepy at all. Being in a spaceship 12 light years from home and having someone knock on the door is totally not normal. Okay, now I need another lamp. I pinball down to the lab to grab another one, then back up to the control room. I cycle the airlock without bothering to put on the EVA suit. I turn the manual vent valves on both doors to the airlock to repressurize the tunnel. It works just like I expected. There's a good seal out there. I open the door and float in, lamp in hand. The hex wall is gone. It's been replaced by a solid wall of clear material. And on the other side of that wall is Rocky. He's a spider, a big ass spider. Spooter aliens. I didn't know what Rocky was gonna look like, but you know what? I wasn't really expecting an alien. I was just thinking like a rocky little dude. But hey, Spider works. I'm excited for Spider. I'm very curious to see how they do that in the movie. I turn to flee, but my rational brain takes over. Is Bro afraid of spiders? Sees a spider and goes, absolutely not. No, thank you. No, no, no. Easy, easy. They're friendly, I say to myself. I turn back and take in the scene. Rocky is smaller than a human. He's about the size of a Labrador. Labrador spider. He has 5 legs from radiating out from a central carapace looking thing. The carapace, which is roughly a pentagon, is 18 inches. He's so geometrical, is 18 inches across and half as thick. I don't see eyes or a face anywhere. Each leg has a joint in the middle. I'll call it an elbow. Each leg, or should I say arm, ends in a hand. So he's got 5 hands. Each hand has those triangular fingers I got a good look at last time. Looks like all 5 hands are the same. I don't see any front or back to him. He appears to be pentagonally symmetrical. He wears clothing. The legs are bare, showing the rock-like skin, but there's cloth on the carapace, some sort of like a shirt with 5 armholes. I don't know what the shirt is made of, but it looks thicker than typical human clothing. It's a dull greenish brown and inconsistently shaded. The top of the shirt has a large open hole, like where the neck goes on a human's t-shirt. That hole is smaller than the carapace, so he must have to put that shirt on by pulling it downward and sliding the arms through their respective holes. Again, like a human shirt. But there's no neck or head to go through that hole on top. Just a hard looking rocky pentagon that sticks up a little bit from the crusty skin. On his side of the tunnel, he has handles and lattice work on the walls. He casually hangs on to a couple of bars with 2 of his hands. I guess when you have 5 hands, 0G isn't that big a deal. Just allocate a hand or two for keeping stuff and for keeping in one place and use the other 3 to do stuff. For me, the tunnel's kind of small, but for him, it's absolutely spacious. He waves to me with a free arm. He knows one human greeting, and by golly, he plans to use it. I wave back. He waves again. I shake my head. My head. No more waving. He pivots his shoulders to rotate? Oh my goodness. Rotate his carapace back and forth. He shook his head in as much as he could. I wonder how we're going to break out of this game of Iridian see, Iridian do, but he takes care of that for me. He taps the clear wall 3 times with a finger, then keeps the finger extended. Is he pointing? I follow the line and wow, there's stuff in the tunnel with me. They left me a present. I can be forgiven for not noticing. Seeing an alien kind of distracted me from the small collection of objects on the tunnel wall. All right, I say. Let's see what you left me. Music notes. It's literally just music notes, says Rocky. My jaw drops. Yes, I'm in 0G. 0G. It still drops. There is no pronunciation or inflection of the sounds, just notes, like whale song, except not quite like whale song because there were several at once. Whale chords, I guess. And he was responding to me. That means he can hear, too. And notably, the sounds were in my range of hearing. Some of the notes were low, some of them high, but definitely audible. That alone is amazing when I think about it. He's from a different planet and totally different evolutionary line, but we ended up with compatible sound ranges. On top of all that, he decided my noises warranted response. You have a language, I say. How do you have a language? You don't have a mouth. Music notes, Rocky explains. 3 music notes. Thinking rationally, you can't make spaceships without a civilization, and you can't have a civilization without being able to communicate. So, of course, they have language. It's interesting that communication is done with sound, like humans do. Coincidence? Maybe not. Maybe that's just the easiest way to evolve that trait. 1 music note. Rocky points to the objects they left me. Right, I say. The whole language thing is way more interesting to me, and I'd rather explore that. But for now, Rocky wants to know what I think of his presence. I float over to the objects. They're attached to the wall with my own tape. The objects are a pair of spheres. Each one has a raised image embossed on it. One has the Hail Mary and the other has the blip A. I pull the Hail Mary ball off the tape. It's not warm. In fact, the tunnel isn't warm anymore. Interesting. Maybe they noticed I like things cooler and they did something to make it more comfortable for me. I rattle. There's a rattle from inside the ball. I shake it and listen. More rattling. I find a seam. I rotate the top and bottom of the screw against each other, and sure, they rotate. Left-handed screw, of course. I look to Rocky for approval. He has no face and thus no facial expressions. He just floats there, watching me. Well, not watching, no eyes. Actually, wait, how does he know what I'm doing? He clearly knows he waved and stuff. He must have eyes somewhere. I probably just don't recognize them. I turn my attention back to the sphere. I pull the 2 halves apart, and there is a bunch of more little spheres. I sigh. This raises more questions than it answers. The little beads float out and drift across my field of view. They're not individual items. They're connected to one another by little strings, like a complicated necklace. I spread it out as best I can. They look like, for lack of a better term, beaded handcuffs. Two circles of threaded beads connected to each other by a little bridge of thread. Each circle has 8 beads on it. The connecting thread has none. This seems very deliberate, but I have no idea what it means. Maybe the other ball, the one with the Blip A picture on it, will shed more light. I let the handcuffs float and pull the Blip A ball off the wall. I shake it and hear lots of rattling from inside. I unscrew the two halves, and another set of beads comes out. Unlike the handcuffs, there's only one ring in this construction, and it has 7 beads, not 8. Also, it has 3 connector strings sticking out of the circle and leading to a single bead each. I'm sorry, there we go. Single bead each, kind of like a necklace with some ornamentation hanging off of it. There's more stuff inside. I shake the model, and another necklace floats out. I take a look at it's identical to the one I just inspected. I keep shaking, and more necklaces come out, each one the same. I collect them all and stuff them in my pockets. This reminds me of something. I felt my forehead. What does this remind me of? Rocky tapes Rocky taps his carapace with a claw. I know he's just mimicking my movements, but it feels like he's saying, "Think, dummy." What would I tell my students at a time like this? Why did I suddenly think of my students? I got an image of my classroom, a flash of memory. I'm holding a model of a molecule and explaining molecules. I grab the handcuffs and hold them out to Rocky. These are molecules. You're trying to tell me something about chemistry. Multiple music notes. But wait, these are some weird molecules. They make no sense. I look at the handcuffs. Nothing forms a molecule like this. 8 atoms on one side, 8 on the other, and connected by what? Nothing. The connector string isn't even coming off a bead. It's just teeing off strings from the 2 circles. Atoms, I say. The beads are protons. So the circles of beads are atoms, and the little connectors are chemical bonds. Okay, if that's the case, I hold up the handcuffs and count everything again. Then this is 2 atoms, each with 8 protons connecting to each other. Element number 8 is oxygen, 2 oxygen, O2, and it was in the Hail Mary ball. I hold it toward Rocky. You clever fellow, this is my atmosphere. I grab the other set of beads. So your atmosphere is 7 protons connected to 3 individual atoms with 1 proton each, a nitrogen attached to 3 hydrogens. Ammonia, of course it's ammonia. You breathe ammonia. That explains the pervasive smell on all of the little presents they left me, residual traces of their air. My smile fades. Yikes. You breathe ammonia? I count all the little ammonia necklaces they gave me. I only got one O2 molecule, but they gave me 29 ammonias. I think about it for a moment. Oh, I say, I get it. I see what you're saying. I look to my alien counterpart. You have 29 times as much atmosphere as I do. Wow. Those things come immediate. Two things come immediately to mind. First, Iridians live in immense pressure, like similar to being 1,000 feet in the deep, 1,000 feet deep in the ocean back on Earth. Secondly, xenonite is some amazing stuff. I don't know how thick that wall is, half an inch maybe, less, but it's holding back a relative pressure of 28 atmospheres, all while being a big, unreinforced flat panel, the absolute worst way to make a pressure vessel. Heck, their whole ship is made of big flat panels. The tensile strength of that stuff must be off the charts. No wonder I couldn't bend or break the things they sent earlier. We don't have remotely compatible environments. I'd die in seconds if I were on his side of the tunnel, and my guess is he wouldn't do well in 1/29th his normal atmospheric pressure and with no ammonia at all. Okay, not a problem. We have sound and we can pantomime. That's a good start for communication. I take a moment and let this all sink in. This is amazing stuff. I have an alien buddy here, and we're chatting. I can barely contain myself. The problem is, I haven't contained myself. Fatigue washes over me so hard I can barely concentrate. It's been 2 days since I slept. There's just always been something monumental going on. I can't just stay up forever. I need to sleep. I hold up a finger, the hang on a sec motion. Hopefully, he remembers it from last time. He holds up a finger on one of his hands to match. I rush back into the ship and careen down to the lab. There's an analog clock on the wall, because every lab needs an analog clock. It takes some doing, but I pull it off the wall and put it under my arm. I also grab a dry erase marker from the workstation. Back I go through the control room and into the tunnel of aliens. Rocky is still there. He seems to perk up when I return. How could I know that? I don't know. He just kind of repositioned himself and seems more attentive. I show him the clock. I spin the time set dial in the back. I just want him to see how the hands move around. He makes circular motion with a hand. He gets it. I set the clock to 12 o'clock. Then I use the dry erase marker to draw a long line from the center toward the wait. Then I use the dry erase marker to draw a long line from the center toward the 12 and a short line from the center of the 2. I'd rather sleep a solid 8 hours, but I don't want to keep Rocky waiting too long. I'll settle with a 2-hour nap. I'll come back when the clock matches this, I say, as if that would help him understand. Music notes. He makes a gesture. He reaches forward with his 2 hands and grabs nothing, and then he pulls nothing toward him. What? He taps the wall and points to the clock, then repeats the gesture. Does he want the clock to be closer to the wall? I push the clock closer. That seems to excite him. He makes the gesture more rapidly. I move it further forward. The clock is almost touching the wall now. He does the gesture one more time, but this time a little slower. At this point, I have no idea what he wants, so I just push the clock up against the wall. It's touching now. He raises his hands and kind of shakes them. Alien jazz hands. Is that a good thing? Okay, I hope he understands I'll be back in 2 hours. I turn to leave, but immediately hear tap, tap, tap. What? I say. Music notes, he says, pointing to the clock. It drifted a little bit further. It drifted a little bit away from the wall. He doesn't like that. Okay, I say. I pull a loop of tape off the wall, unloop it, and rip it in half. I use the 2 halves to tape the left and right sides of the clock to the clear wall. Rocky gives me the jazz hand signal again. I think it means yes, or I approve of this, like nodding. I turn to leave, but tap, tap, tap. I spin around once more. Dude, I just want a darn nap. He holds up a finger, using my own sign language against me. Now I have to wait. I guess that's fair. I hold up my finger and acknowledge it. He opens a circular door leading to a ship. It's the right size for an Iridian. I would have a hard time squeezing through it if that ever became a plan. He disappears inside, leaving the door open. I'd love to know what's beyond the door, but I can't see anything. It's pitch black in there. Interesting. It is completely dark in his ship. That door probably leads to an airlock, but even an airlock would have sunlights in it, wouldn't it? Rocky didn't have any problem getting around, but I know he can see. He responds to my gestures. This lends strength to my earlier theory about Iridian vision. I think they see a different part of the spectrum than humans do. Maybe they see entirely in infrared or entirely in ultraviolet. That airlock might be perfectly lit up as far as Rocky's concerned, and I can't see a thing. Conversely, my lights are completely useless to him. I wonder if we have any wavelengths in common. Maybe red, the color with the lowest wavelength that humans can see, is 3 music notes, the highest wavelength they can see. Or something. Might be worth looking into. I should bring a rainbow of lights in and figure out if he can. Oh, he's back. Rocky bounces into the tunnel and Spider walks along the rails to the dividing wall. He's incredibly graceful at it. Either he's very seasoned at being in zero G, or Iridians are just really good at climbing around. They have 5 hands with opposable fingers, and he's an interstellar traveler, so it's probably a little bit of both. Oh, my goodness. With one of his hands, he holds up a device for me to see. I don't know what it is. It's a cylinder. Man, these people like cylinders. A foot long and maybe 6 inches wide. I can see that his grip deforms the casing a little bit. It's made of a soft material, like foam rubber. Goodness. The cylinder has 5 horizontally aligned square windows. Inside each window is a shape. I think they might be letters, but they're not just ink on paper. They're on a flat surface. But symbols themselves are raised an eighth of an inch or so. Huh, I say. A symbol on the right rotates away to be replaced by a new symbol. After a couple of seconds, it happens again, then again. It's a clock, I say. I showed you a clock, so you showed me a clock. I point to the clock, still taped to the wall, then to his. He does the jazz hands with 2 of the hands he's not using at the moment. I do jazz hands back. I watch the Iridian clock for a while. Rocky just holds it in place for me to see. The symbols, numbers probably. Oh, goodness. The symbols, numbers probably, cycle through on the rightmost window. They're on a rotor, like an old school digital clock back home. Then, after a while, the rotor one step to the left of it changes one position. Aha! As far as I can tell, the right rotor changes once every 2 seconds, a little more than 2 seconds, I think. It cycles through 6 unique symbols before repeating L, I, V, some other symbol, plus, and V with a dash in it, in that order. Whenever it reaches L, the next rotor to the left advances one step. Eventually, after about a minute of this, that second from the right rotor works its way through all the symbols. When it reaches L, the third rotor from the right advances. Looks like they read information from left to right, same as English. Neat coincidence. They're not incredibly unlikely. I mean, there's really only 4 options: left to right, right to left, top to bottom, or bottom to top. So there was a 1 in 4 chance we'd be the same. What if diagonally? What if they read diagonally? You never know this. So his clock is intuitive for me to read. It works like an odometer. I don't know what an odometer is. L is clearly their zero. From what I know, from that, I know that I is 1, V is 2, the other weird symbol is 3, plus is 4, and V slash is 5. What about 6 through 9? They don't exist. After V slash, we go back to L. Iridians use base 6. Of all the things I teach my students, numerical bases are the hardest to make them truly understand. There's nothing special about the number 10. We have 10 unique digits because we have 10 fingers. Simple as that. Rockies have 3 fingers per hand, and I guess they only like to use 2 hands when counting. They probably keep the other 3 feet slash hands on the ground to stay steady. So they have 6 fingers to work with. I like you, Rocky. You're a genius. And he is. With this simple act, Rocky showed me how Iridian numbers work, base 6, how Iridian numbers are written, the LIV weird symbol plus and slash V, how Iridians read information left to right, how long an Iridian second is. I hold up a finger and rush back into the ship to get my stopwatch. I come back and time Rocky's clock. I start the timer just as the third rotor changes state. The right rotor continues clicking over every 2 seconds or so, and every 6 steps, the next rotor advances 1. This is going to take a while, but I want as accurate a count as possible. It takes around a minute and a half for the third rotor to move just 1 step. I can expect to be at this for 10 minutes or so, but I plan to watch the whole time. Rocky gets bored. At least I think that's what happens. He starts fidgeting, and then the clock floats in place near the divider wall. Then he wanders around his side of the tunnel. I'm not sure if he's doing anything in particular. He opens a door leading into his ship, begins to climb through, then stops. He seems to think it over, then changes his mind. He closes the door. He doesn't want to leave while I'm still here. After all, I might do something or say something. I might do or say something interesting. Music notes, he says. I know, I say. I hold up a finger. He holds up his finger, then returns to slowly bouncing from wall to wall. Zero G pacing. Me too, Rocky. Honestly, me too. Finally, the third rotor completes a full lap and I stop my timer. Total time 511.0 seconds. I don't have a calculator and I'm too excited to go back into the ship to get one. I pull out a pen and do long division on the palm of my other hand. 1 iridian second is 2.366 Earth seconds. I circle the answer on my palm and stare at it. I add a few exclamation points nearby because I feel like they're warranted. I know it doesn't seem like much, but this is a huge deal. Rocky and I are astronauts. If we're going to talk, we're going to talk science. And just like that, Rocky and I have established a fundamental unit of time. Next up, length and mass. No, actually, next up, a nap. I'm so tired. I pull my clock off the wall, circle the 2 with my dry erase marker, just to be clear as possible, then tape it back in place. He waves back. I wave. He waves back. Then I go back for a nap. This is ridiculous. How can I expect to sleep? How could anyone under these circumstances? I'm still wrapping my head around what's happening. There's an alien out there, and it's killing me that I can't find out what he knows about astrophage, but you can't talk about complex scientific concepts with someone via pantomime. We need a shared language, however rudimentary. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. Work on science communication, the verbs and nouns of physics. It's the one set of concepts we're guaranteed to share. Physical laws are the same everywhere, and once we have enough words to actually talk about it, science, we'll start talking about astrophage. And in VVL weird symbol I, iridian seconds, I'll be talking to him again. How the heck can a guy sleep at a time like this? There's no way I could just. He definitely passed out. He definitely, like, it finally got up to him. He definitely passed out. He's like, oh my gosh, how am I expected to sleep? Snooze. Okay, chapter 11. We're making good progress. My timer beeps at me. I'd set it for a 2-hour countdown. It just reached 0. I blink a couple of times. I'm floating in a fetal position in the control room. I didn't even make it to the dormitory. I am not rested at all. Every pore of my being yells at me to go back to sleep, but I told Rocky I'd be back in 2 hours and I wouldn't want him to think humans are untrustworthy. I mean, we're pretty untrustworthy, but I don't want him to know that. I trudge. Can you trudge in 0G? I say yes, through the airlock. Rocky is waiting for me in the tunnel. He's been busy in my absence. There's all sorts of stuff in there now. The iridian clock is still ticking away, now mounted to one of the lattice poles. But more interesting to me is that the box that's been added to the dividing wall. It's a 1-foot cube and it juts out into my half of the tunnel. It's made of the same transparent xenonite that the rest of the wall is made of. On Rocky's side, the box has a flat panel door with an opaque xenonite border. Also, there's a square hole with a perfectly fitted square pipe leading away. There are some controls on the pipe near the box. Buttons, maybe? A wire coming from the control box snakes along the pipe, disappearing into the hole where the pipe does. Meanwhile, on my side of the cube is a crank, roughly the same shape as my own airlock door's crank. And that's attached to a square panel like the one on Rocky's side. And it's an airlock, I said. You made an airlock in our airlock tunnel. These aliens are freaking smart. What the heck? Brilliant, simply brilliant. Rocky and I can both access it. He can control the air in that little chamber by means of the mystery pipe, which presumably leads back to some pumps or something in the blip A. And those buttons, or whatever, are the controls. Just like that, we have a way to transfer stuff back and forth. I do jazz hands, he does them back. Again with the square flat panels. Who makes a square airlock? Each, especially one designed to handle Iridian atmospheric pressure. Even the pipe that runs the mini airlock is square. I know they can make round xenonite. The cylinders they sent me when we first met were round. This tunnel is round. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Xenonite is so strong you don't have to carefully shape it into pressure vessels. Flat panels are probably easier to make. This is awesome. I hold up a finger. He returns the gesture. I fly down to the lab and grab a tape measure. He showed me a metric of time, so I'll show him a metric of length. The tape measure is metric, thank God. It's going to be confusing enough using base 6 Iridian seconds. The last thing I want to throw in there is imperial units, even if they are natural to me. Back in the tunnel, I hold up the tape measure. I pull it out a bit, then release it to let it retract. I repeat the process a few times. He does jazz hands. I point to the square lock. Well, what else should I call it? And he does jazz hands again. I hope that means there isn't 29 atmospheres of ammonia in there at the moment. I guess we'll see. I turn the crank and open my door. It swings out toward me easily. Nothing explodes. In fact, I don't even smell ammonia. And it wasn't a vacuum. And it wasn't a vacuum in there either. It wouldn't have been able to pull the door open at all if I wouldn't have been able to pull the door open at all if it had been. Rocky set that up to be exactly at my atmosphere. Considerate of him. Now that we're a few chapters in, I'm beginning to lose my speech already. I put the tape measure in the approximate center of the box and let it float there. I close the door and turn the crank. Rocky presses a button on the controls and I hear a muffled thwomp followed by a steady hiss. A foggy gas rushes in from the pipe. Ammonia, presumably. The tape measure bounces inside, pushed around like a leaf in the wind. Soon, the hiss dulls to a trickle. And then I realize my mistake. The tape measure is one of those solid construction site kinds that are made of metal with tool grade rubber grip pads. Thing is, Iridians like it hot. How hot? I can't say for sure, but I now know it's hotter than the melting point of the rubber on the tape measure. The blob of liquid rubber undulates on the tape measure, sticking to the tool via surface tension. Rocky opens his door and carefully grabs my faulty present by the metal. At least that's still solid. I think it's made of aluminum. It's nice to know that Iridian air isn't hot enough to melt that too. As Rocky pulls the tape measure toward him, the rubber blob separates from it and floats off in his side of the top of the tube. He pokes the rubber blob and it sticks to his claw. He shakes it off without much trouble. Obviously, the temperature doesn't bother him. I guess it's no different from a human shaking water off his hand. In my atmosphere, rubber that hot would burn. There'd be all these nasty, noxious gases coming off of it, too. But there's no oxygen on Rocky's side of the wall, so the rubber just kind of stays a liquid. It floats off to the tunnel wall and sticks there. I shrug at him. Maybe he knows what that means. I'm sorry. He sort of shrugs back, but he does it with all five shoulders. Looks weird, and I don't know if he caught my meaning. He pulls the tape out a bit, then lets it snap back. He's clearly surprised, even though he must have known it was coming. He releases it entirely and lets it spin in front of him. He grabs it and does it again, then again, and again. Yeah, it's fun, I say, but look at the markings. Those are centimeters. Centimeters. The next time he pulls the tape out, I point to the tape. Look! He just keeps pulling it out and back again. I don't see any indication that he cares about what's written there. Ugh. I hold up a finger. I go back to the lab and get another tape measure. It's a well-stocked lab, and no space mission would be complete without redundancy. I come back to the tunnel. Rocky is still playing with the tape measure. Now he's really having a ball. He pulls the tape out as far as he can, which is about a meter, then releases both the tape and the tape measure at the same time. The resulting recoil and snapback makes the tape measure spin wildly in front of him. Music notes, he says. I'm pretty sure that was a squeal of glee. Look, look, I say. Rocky, Rocky, yo! He finally stops playing with the unintentional toy. I pull some tape out of my tape measure, then point to the markings. Look, here, see these? He pulls his own out approximately the same distance. I can see the markings on his are still there. They didn't get baked off in the blistering iridian heat or anything. What is the problem? I point at the 1 centimeter line. Look, 1 centimeter, this line, here. I tap the line repeatedly. He holds the tape measure out with two hands and taps it with a third. He matches my tempo, but he's nowhere near the 1 centimeter mark. Here, I tap the mark harder. Are you blind? That's not very nice to say to your new alien friend, Ryland. Come on now. I pause. Wait, are you blind? Rocky taps the tape measure some more. I've always assumed he had eyes somewhere, and I didn't recognize them. What if he doesn't have eyes at all? The airlock of the Blip A was dark, and Rocky didn't have any problem with it, so I figured he saw in frequencies of light I can't see. But the tape measure has white tape and with black markings on it. Any vision in any spectrum would be able to discern black on white. Black is the absence of light, and white is all frequencies equally reflected. Wait, this doesn't make sense. He knows what I'm doing. He mimics my gestures. If he doesn't have vision, how can he read my clock? How can he read his own clock? His clock has thick numbers, like an eighth of an inch. And thinking back, he actually did have some trouble with my clock. He needed me to tape it to the divider wall. When it floated an inch away, he got upset. Just being close to the divider wasn't enough. The clock had to be touching it. Sound, I say. Do you see with sound? It would make sense. Humans use electromagnetic waves to understand our three-dimensional environment. So why couldn't different species use sound waves? Same principle, and we even have it on Earth. Bats and dolphins use echolocation to see with sound. Maybe iridians have that ability, but on steroids. Unlike bats and dolphins, iridians have passive sonar. They use ambient sound waves to resolve their environment instead of making a specific noise to track prey. Just a theory, but it fits the data. That's why his clock numbers are thick, because his sonar can't perceive things that are too thin. My clock was a challenge for him. He can't see the ink, but the hands are solid objects, so he knew about them, but the whole thing is encased in plastic. I slapped my forehead. That's why you need the clock pressed up against the wall. You need the sound waves bouncing around in it to get to you more easily. And the tape measure I just handed you is useless. You can't see the ink at all. He plays with the tape measure some more. I hold up a finger. He's more focused on the tape measure toy, but he absolutely returns the gesture with one of his spare hands. He's having so much fun with that. I fly back into the ship, through the control room, and into the lab. I grab a screwdriver and head further down to the dormitory. I detach a storage panel from the floor. Simple aluminum sheet stock, maybe 1/16 of an inch thick, with the edges rounded so we don't cut ourselves. Strong, durable, and light. Perfect for space travel. I fly back to the tunnel. Rocky has wrapped one end of the tape around one of his tunnel's grab handles and tied it to in a somewhat crude knot. He hangs onto the dispenser with one hand and uses the other to climb backward along the bars. Hey, I say. I hold up my hand. Hey. He stops playing with the tape measure for a moment. Notes? I hold up 2 fingers. Rocky holds up 2 fingers. Yeah, okay, we're in mimic mode again. I hold up 1 finger, then switch to 2, then back to 1, and then finally 3. Rocky repeats the sequence, just as I hoped he would. Now I put the aluminum panel between my hand and Rocky. Behind the panel, I hold up 2 fingers, then 1, then 3, then 5. Rocky holds up 2 fingers, then 1, then all 3. He brings in a second hand to hold up 2 more fingers for a total of 5. Wow, I say. 1/16th inch aluminum will stop pretty much all light. Some absurdly high frequencies can get through, but those frequencies would also pass right through me. He wouldn't see my hands. But sound travels through metals just fine. That's proof. He's not using light to perceive what's going on. It must be sound. To Rocky, that metal plate is like a glass window. Maybe it muddles the image a bit, but not much. Heck, he probably doesn't. He probably knows what the Hail Mary's control room looks like. Why not? The hull is just more aluminum. How did he see me out in space? No air in space, so no sound. Wait, no, that's a dumb question. He's not a caveman wandering around in space. He's an advanced interstellar traveler. He's technology. He probably has cameras and radar and stuff that translate data into something he can understand. No different from my petroscope. I can't see IR light, but it can, and then it shows to me on a monitor with light frequencies I can't see. The Blip A control room probably has awesome looking braille like readouts. Well, I'm sure it's way more advanced than that. Wow, I stare at him. Humans spend thousands of years looking up at the stars and wondering what's out there. You guys never saw stars at all, but you still worked space travel. What an amazing people you Iridians must be. Scientific geniuses. The knot in the tape comes loose, recoils wildly, and smacks Rocky's hand. He shakes the affected hand in pain for a moment, then continues messing with the tape measure. Yep, you're definitely a scientist. I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm still yawning. All rise, said the bailiff. The United States District, well, I guess we're back in a flashback now. The United States District Court for the Western District of Washington is now in session. The Honorable Justice Meredith Spencer presiding. We're in a courtroom. Why are we in a courtroom? The entire courtroom stood at the judge as the judge took her seat. Be seated, the bailiff said. Goodness gracious. He handed the justice a folder. Your Honor, today's case is Intellectual Property Alliance versus Project Hail Mary. The judge nodded. Plaintiff, are you ready for a trial? The plaintiff's table was crowded with well-dressed men and women. The eldest of them, a man in his 60s, stood to answer. We are, Your Honor. Defense, are you ready for trial? Straught sat alone at the defense table, typing away on her tablet. The justice cleared her throat. Straught finished typing and stood. I'm ready. Justice Spencer gestured to Straught's table. Counselor, where's the rest of your team? Just me, she said, and I'm not a counselor. I'm the defendant. Miss Straught. Spencer took off her glasses and glared. The defendant in this case is a rather famous intergovernmental consortium of scientists. Led by me, said Straught. I move to dismiss. You can't make motions yet, Miss Straught, said Spencer. Just tell me if you're ready to proceed. I'm ready. All right, plaintiff, you may begin your opening statement. The man stood. May it please the court and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Theodore Canton, counselor for the Intellectual Property Alliance in this action. During this trial, we will show that Project Hail Mary has overstepped its authority in the matter of digital data acquisition and licensing. They have in their possession a gigantic solid-state drive array upon which they have copied literally every single piece of software that has ever been copyrighted, as well as every single book and literary work that has ever been available in any digital format. All of this was done without payment or licensing to the proper copyright holders or intellectual property owners. Furthermore, many of their technological designs violate patents held by, Your Honor, Strutt interrupted. Can I make motions now? Technically, said the justice, but it's irregular. I move to dismiss. Your Honor, Canton protested. On what grounds, Miss Straught? said the justice. Because I don't have time for this bullshit, she said. We are building a ship literally to save our species, and we have very little time to get it done. It will have 3 astronauts, just 3, to do experiments we can't even conceive of now. We need them to be prepared for any possible line of study they deem necessary. So we are giving them everything, the collected knowledge of humankind, along with all software. Some of it is stupid. They probably won't need Minesweeper for Windows 3.1, and they probably don't need an unabridged Sanskrit to English dictionary, but they are going to have them. Canton shook his head. Your Honor, my clients don't dispute the noble nature of the Hail Mary project. The complaint is in the illegal use of copyrighted material and patented mechanisms. Strauss shook her head. It would take a ridiculous amount of time and energy to work out licensing agreements with every company, so we're not doing it. I assure you, Miss Strauss, you will comply with the law, said the justice. Only when I want to, Strauss held up a sheet of paper. According to this international treaty, I am personally immune from prosecution for any crime anywhere on Earth. The United States Senate ratified that treaty 2 months ago. She held up a second piece of paper, and to streamline situations like this, I also have a preemptive pardon from the President of the United States for any and all crimes I am accused of within U.S. jurisdictions. Who is this woman? How the hell is she doing this? How the freak? The bailiff took the papers and handed them to the justice. This, said the justice, is exactly what you say it is. I'm only here as a courtesy, said Strauss. I don't have to come at all, but since the software industry, patent trolls, and everyone else related to intellectual property banded together in one lawsuit, I figured it would be fastest to nip this in the bud all at once. She grabbed her satchel and put the tablet inside. I'll be on my way. Hold on, Miss Strauss, said Justice Spencer. This is still a court of law, and you will remain for the duration of these proceedings. No, I won't, said Strauss. The bailiff walked forward. Ma'am, I'll have to restrain you if you don't comply. You and what army? Strauss said. Five armed men in military fatigues entered the courtroom and took up station around her. Because I have the U.S. Army, she said, and that's a damn fine army. Who is giving this woman this many, who is giving her this much authority? For real. Who is letting her do this much? Seriously. This is insane. Oh my goodness. I browsed through my available software while munching on a peanut butter tortilla. I know that doesn't sound tasty, but it is. I've learned how to grip the lab chair with my legs, and so I don't float off as I use the laptop. Turns out I have a bunch of laptops, at least 6 that I've found in the storage area so far, and they're all connected to a ship-wide Wi-Fi network. Handy. If memory serves, I should have pretty much all the software lurking around somewhere on the ship. The trick is finding the one I need. I wouldn't even know what it's called. Fortunately, one of the books in the digital library is a list of software applications, so that helped. Ultimately, I find something that will work. Tympanum Labs Waveform Analyzer. Okay. There are all sorts of waveform analysis software packages in my library. This one just has the highest reviews according to a 2017 computer magazine that reviewed waveform analyzers. I don't know if I said analyzer, whatever. I installed the software on one of the top laptops. It's pretty simple to use and has a plethora of features, but the one I'm most interested in is the Fourier transform. It's the most basic tool in sound wave analysis and arguably the most important. There's a lot of complicated math on how to make it happen, but the end result is this. If you run a sound wave through a Fourier transform, it will give you a list of the individual notes being played at the same time. So if I played a C major chord and let this app listen to it, the app would tell me there's a C, an E, and a G. It's incredibly useful. No more pantomime. I'm going to learn Iridianese. Yes, I just made up that word. No, I don't feel bad about it. I'm doing a lot of things for the first time in human history out there, and there's a lot of stuff that needs naming. Just be glad I don't name stuff after myself. I launched Microsoft Excel on another laptop and taped the two laptops together back to back. Yes, I could just run both applications on one laptop, but I don't want to switch back and forth. I fly up through this ship and back into the tunnel. Rocky isn't there. Rocky can't just spend all day waiting around for me, but why don't they have someone in the tunnel at all times? If my crewmates were still around, we would definitely rotate a watch or something. Heck, Ilyakina would probably be camped out here nonstop and only leave when she had to sleep. What if they are having different people in the tunnel? How do I know Rocky is just one person? I don't know how to tell Iridians apart. Maybe I've been talking to six different people. That's an unsettling thought. No, that's not it. I'm pretty sure Rocky is just Rocky. The ridges on his carapace and rocky protrusions on his hands are unique. I remember there's an irregular craggy bit sticking up out one of out of one of his fingers. Yeah, it's the same guy. If you looked at a rock for several hours and someone replaced it with a very similar but slightly different rock, you would know. Okay, so where's the rest of the crew? I'm alone here because my crewmates didn't make it, but Iridians have better technology space wise. Better ship, nigh indestructible hull material. There has to be a crew in there. Ah, I bet Rocky's the captain. He puts himself at risk by talking to the scary alien. Everyone else stays back on the ship. That's what Captain Kirk would do. So why not Captain Rocky? Anyway, I have cool stuff I want to do and I'm impatient. Yo, Rocky, I yell. Come here. I listen for any sounds of movement. Come on, Rocky, your entire range sensory input is sound. I bet you can hear a pin drop a mile away. You know I'm calling you. Move your whatever serves as your butt. I want to talk. I wait and wait, but no Rocky. My guess is I'm a pretty high priority to him, so whatever he's doing must be really important. After all, he's got a ship to deal with. He probably needs to eat and sleep. Well, he has to eat anyway. All biological organisms need to get energy somehow. I don't know if Iridians sleep. Come to think of it, sleep might not be such a bad idea. Out of the past 48 hours, I've had a 2 hour nap and nothing else. Rocky's clock is still there, wedged between a grab bar and the divider wall. It's ticking away as normal, but it's interesting that his clock only has 5 digits. By my math, it'll roll over to LLLL every 5 hours or so. Maybe that's the length of an Iridian day. Speculate later. Sleep is the priority. Set up a spreadsheet on my Excel laptop to convert from Rocky time to mine and vice versa. I want to sleep for 8 hours. I enter the current time on Rocky's clock, which is ILIV weird symbol, and have the spreadsheet tell me what that clock will say 8 hours from now. The answer is I weird symbol plus /V/V weird symbol. I hurry back to the lab and pick up a bunch of popsicle sticks and tape. Rocky can't see ink, so I have to improvise. I tape the sticks to the divider wall to let Rocky know when I'll return. I weird symbol plus V/V/ weird symbol. Fortunately, the symbols are mostly made of straight lines, so my little craft project should be good enough for him to read. Interestingly, my return time is 6 digits, one more digit than Rocky's clock shows, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. If Rocky said, I'll be back at 37 o'clock, I'll understand what he meant. Before I hit the hay, I harvest a mini camera from the lab's vacuum chamber. It's just a small wireless camera that talks to a portable LCD clipped to the chamber. I tape the camera back in the tunnel. I tape the camera up in the tunnel, back at the point. I tape the camera up in the tunnel, pointed at the divider wall. I bring the readout screen with me to my bunk. There, now I have a baby monitor set up in the tunnel. There's no audio. The camera is for watching experiments, not chatting with people, but it's better than nothing. I tuck the bunk sheets and blankets in tight around the oval mattress pad. I shimmy in between the tight bedding. This way, I won't just float around while I sleep. My grand plans for communicating with Rocky will have to wait. I'm a little frustrated, but not for long. I conk out almost immediately. Sorry, I'm getting text messages. Anyways, we're about to move on to chapter 12. Okay. I'll be here for like another hour, 15 minutes. So we'll see. I think the goal was like 265. But since that is in like the middle of a chapter, it'd be 276. So, and I'm at 198 right now. So I'll just see how far I get in this. Yeah, because we'll see. We'll see how far we get. But other than that, it's still going to be 211 plus whatever I don't finish right now on Friday. So stay tuned. That's going to be a long but fun session with Kaylee. She'll actually be with me that time. And I won't just be by myself. Tap, tap, tap. The sound barely penetrates my consciousness. It's far away. Tap, tap, tap. I wake from a dreamless sleep. Huh? Tap, tap, tap. Breakfast, I mumble. The mechanical arms reach into a compartment and pull out a packaged meal. It's like Christmas every morning around here. I pull the top off and steam wafts out in all directions. There's a breakfast burrito inside. There's burritos everywhere on this ship. I want a breakfast burrito, low-key. Breakfast burrito sounds delicious right now, but there's nowhere on campus that gives me a breakfast burrito. So I'm devastated. Which means I want to go home and get the breakfast burrito from that one little diner. Okay. Anyways, aside from me being hungry, I'm becoming like Ryland. I'm food motivated. Nice, I say. Coffee? Preparing. I take a bite of the breakfast burrito. It's good. All the food is good. I guess they figured out if we're going to die, we may as well eat good stuff. Coffee, says the computer. A mechanical arm hands me a pouch with a pinch straw in it, like a Capri Sun for adults. 0G accommodations. I let the burrito float nearby and take a sip of coffee. It's delicious, of course. It even has just the right amount of cream and sugar. It's a very personal preference that varies widely from person to person. Tap, tap, tap. What is that, anyway? I check the LCD screen taped near my bunk. Rocky's in the tunnel tapping on the divider wall. Computer, how long was I asleep? Patient was unconscious for 10 hours and 17 minutes. Oh, crud. I wriggle out of my bedding and bounce up through the ship toward the control room. I carry the burrito and coffee with me because I'm starving. I bounce into the tunnel. Sorry. Rocky taps the divider louder than before now that I'm here. He points to the popsicle stick numbers I taped to the divider and then to his clock. He balls one of his hands into a fist. I'm sorry. I clasp my hands together as if praying. I don't know what else to do. There's no interplanetary system symbol for supplication. I don't know if he understands, but he unclenches his fist. Bro literally said. Maybe it was a modest admonishment. I mean, he could have made 5 fists, but he only made 1. Anyway, I kept him waiting over 2 hours. He's understandably upset. Hopefully this next trick will make up for it. I hold up a finger. He returns the gesture. I grab my duct-taped laptops. How are these things being powered? Okay. I launch the waveform analysis software on one and Excel on the other. I press them against the tunnel wall and secure them there with tape. Bro's just duct taping everything to these walls. I pull the popsicle stick numbers off the divider wall. They're as good a place to start as any. I hold up the eye and point to it. 1, I say. 1. I point to my mouth, then back to the Iridian number. 1. Then I point to Rocky. He points to the eye and says, Note. I pause the waveform analyzer and scroll back a few seconds. There we go. Rocky's word for one is just two notes played at the same time. There are a bunch of harmonics and resonances in there too, but the main frequency peaks are just two notes. I type one to the spreadsheet on the computer and note the relevant frequencies. Okay, I return to the divider and hold up the V symbol. Two, I say. Note, he says, another one-syllable word. The oldest words in a language are usually the shortest. This time, it's a core made up of four distinct notes. I enter two and record the frequencies for that word. I start to get excited. I think he knows what I'm up to. Oh, he starts to get excited. I think he knows what I'm up to, and it's got him happy. I hold up the weird symbol, and before I can speak, he points to it and says, Notes. Excellent. Our first two-syllable word. I have to scroll back and forth a bit in the waveform data to get the chords right. The first syllable has just two notes, and the second has five. Rocky can make at least five different notes at the same time. He must have multiple sets of vocal cords or something. Well, he has 5 arms and 5 hands, so why not 5 sets of vocal cords? We in fives. I don't see a mouth anywhere. The notes are just coming from somewhere inside him. When I first heard him speak, I thought it sounded like whale song. That may have been more accurate than I thought. Whales sound like they do because they move air back and forth across their vocal cords without expelling it. Rocky may be doing the same thing. Tap, 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 tap. What? I look back at him. He points to the weird symbol still in my hand and then to me, then back to the weird symbol and back to me. He's almost frantic about it. Oh, sorry. I hold the digit up properly and say, 3. He does jazz hands. I throw some jazz hands back. Huh. While we're on the subject, I stand for a moment so he'll know that there was a break in the conversation. Then I do jazz hands and say, yes. I repeat the gesture. Yes. He does it back to me and says, notes. I note and record the frequencies in my laptop. Okay, we have a yes in our vocabulary now. Tap, tap, tap. I look over. Once he knows he has my attention, he does jazz hands again and does notes. Same chord as before. Yes, I say, we covered this. He holds up a finger for a moment. Then he balls 2 of his fists and taps them together. Notes. What? I say. What? Oh, I say, I'm a teacher. What would I teach someone who just learned the word yes? That's no. At least I hope so. I ball my fists and tap them together. No. Notes, he says. I check the laptop. He just said yes. Wait, does that mean it's not no? Is that another yes? Now I'm confused. No, I ask. No, he says in Iridian. So yes. No, yes. Yes. No, no. Yes, yes. No. He balls a fist at me, clearly frustrated. I'm glad to say that they're now starting to put in what Rocky is saying, because if I just had to say notes every single time he spoke, that'd be mildly upsetting. Enough of this interspecies Abbott and Costello routine. I hold up a finger. He unballs his fist and returns the gesture. I enter the frequencies for what I think is no into my spreadsheet. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and we'll work it out later. I hold up the symbol, the plus symbol, 4. He holds up 3 fingers on one hand and 1 finger on another. Notes. I make note of the frequencies. For the next several hours, we expand our shared vocabulary to several thousand words? I'm sorry. 1,000? Several thousand? What the freak? Language is kind of an exponential system. The more words you know, the easier it is to describe new ones. Communication is hampered by my slow and clumsy system for listening to Rocky. I check the frequencies he emits with one laptop, then look them up in my spreadsheet on the other laptop. It's not a great system. I've had enough. I excused myself for an hour to write some software. I'm not a computer expert, but I know some rudimentary programming. I wrote a program to take the audio analysis software's output and look up the words in my table. It's barely even a program, more of a script. It's not efficient at all, but computers are fast. Fortunately, Rocky speaks with musical chords. While it's very different to make a computer turn human speech into text, it's very easy to make a computer identify musical notes and find them in a table. From that point on, my laptop screen shows me the English translation of what Rocky is saying in real time. When a new word comes up, I enter it into my database. The computer knows it from then on. Rocky, meanwhile, doesn't use any system to record what I'm saying or doing. No computer, no writing implement, no microphone, nothing. He just pays attention. And as far as I can tell, he remembers everything I told him, every word, even if I only told it to him once and several hours earlier. If only my students were that attentive. I suspect Iridians have much better memory than humans. Broke and I have an Iridian memory. My memory is straight garbanzo beans. It's so bad. Broadly speaking, the human brain, we're getting so close, guys. Broadly speaking, the human brain is a collective of software hacks compiled into a single, somehow functional unit. Each feature was added as a random mutation that solved some specific problem to increase our odds of survival. In short, the human brain is a mess. Facts. Everything about evolution is messy, so I assume Iridians are also a mess of random mutations. But whatever led to their brains being how they are, it gave them what we humans would call photographic memory. It's probably even more complicated than that. Humans have a whole chunk of our brains dedicated to sight, and it even has its own memory cache. Cache? Cache? I think it's cache. Maybe Iridians are just really good at remembering sounds. After all, it's their primary sense. I know it's too early, but I can't wait any longer. Get a vial of astrophage from the lab supplies and bring it to the tunnel. I hold it up. Astrophage, I say. Rocky's entire posture changes. He hunkers his carapace. He hunkers his carapace a little lower. He tightens his claws a bit on the bars he uses to keep in place. Notes, he says, his voice more quiet than usual. I check the computer. It's not a word I've recorded yet. It must be his word for astrophage. I note it in the database. I point to the vial. Astrophage on my star. Bad. It's a long line of notes, Rocky says. The computer translates. Astrophage on me star. Bad, bad, bad. Okay, theory confirmed. He's here for the same reason I am. I want to ask so many more questions, but we just don't have the words. It's infuriating. Long series of notes, Rocky says. The computer pops up the question. You come from where? Question. Rocky has picked up the basic word ordering of English. I think he realized early on that I can't automatically remember stuff, so he works with my system rather than trying to teach me his. I probably seem pretty stupid, honestly, but some of his own grammar sneaks in once in a while. He always ends a question with the word question. No, understand, I say. You star is what name? Question. Oh, I say, he wants the name of my star. Sol. My star is called Sol. Understand. Iridian name for your star is Notes. I note down the new word. That's Rocky's word for soul. Unlike two humans fumbling to communicate, Rocky and I can't even pronounce each other's proper nouns. My name for your star is Eridani. I say, technically we call it for Eridani, but I decide to keep it simple. Iridian name for my star is Notes. I add the word to the dictionary. Understand. Good. I don't have to read the computer screen for that particular translation. I've started to recognize some of the more frequent words like you, me, good, bad, etc. I've never been artistic, and I'm about as far from having a musical ear as anyone can be, but after you hear a chord 100 times, you tend to remember it. I checked my watch. Yes, I have a watch now. The stopwatch has a clock feature. It took me a while to notice. I had other things on my mind. We've been at it all day and I'm exhausted. Do Iridians even know what sleep is? I guess it's time to find out. Human bodies must sleep. Sleep is this. I curl up into a ball and close my eyes in an overdramatic representation of sleep. I make a fake snoring sound because I'm a bad actor. I turn I return to normal and point to his clock. Humans sleep for 29,000 seconds. Along with perfect memory, Iridians are extremely good at math. At least Rocky is. As we worked our way through scientific units, it became immediately apparent that he can convert from his units to mine in the blink of an eye. And he has no problem understanding base 10. Many seconds, he says. Why be still so many seconds? Question. Understand. He relaxes his limbs and then go limp. He curls up like a dead bug and remains motionless for a while. Iridian same. Notes. Oh, thank God. I can't imagine explaining sleep to someone who's never heard of it. Hey, I'm going to fall unconscious and hallucinate for a while. By the way, I spend a third of my time doing this. If I can't do it for a while, I go insane and die. Eventually die. No need for concern. I add his word for sleep to the dictionary. I turn to leave. I'm going to sleep now. I'll come back in 29,000 seconds. I observe, he says. You observe? I observe. He wants to watch me sleep. If in any other context, that would be creepy, but when you're studying a new life form, it's appropriate, I guess. I will be still for 29,000 seconds, I warn him. Many seconds. I will not do anything. I observe. Wait. He returns to his ship. Is he finally going to get something to take notes with? After a few minutes, he comes back with a device in one of his hands and a satchel held in two more. I observe. I point to the device. What is that? Imagine minding your business and an alien wants to watch you sleep. That's crazy. What is that? I point to the device. What is that? Notes. He pulls some kind of tool out of the satchel. Notes, not function. He pokes the device with the tool a few times. I change. Notes, function. I don't bother to note down the new word. What would I enter it as? Thing Rocky was holding that one time? Whatever it is, it has a couple of wires sticking out and an opening that reveals some complex internals. The object itself is irrelevant. The point is he's repairing it. New word for us. Fix. I say, you fix. Notes, he says. I add fix to the dictionary. I suspect it'll come up later. He wants to watch me sleep. He knows it's not going to be exciting, but he wants to do it anyways. So he brought some work with him to keep busy. Okay, whatever floats his boat. Wait, I say. I return to the ship and head to the dormitory. I pull the mattress pad, sheets, and blanket from my bunk. I could use one of the other two bunks, but they had my dead friends in them, so I don't want to. I bring the pad and sheets through the lab, awkwardly through the control room, and into the tunnel. I use a copious amount of duct tape to affix the mattress pad to the wall, then cinch up the sheets and blanket. I sleep now, I say. Sleep. Who is texting me? Okay, we're back. I sleep now, I say. Sleep. I turn off the lights in the tunnel. Total darkness for me, no effect for Rocky, who wants to watch me. Best of both worlds. I shimmy into bed and resist the urge to say goodnight. It would just lead to more questions. I drift off to the occasional clink and scrape of Rocky working on his device. The next several days are repetitive, but far from boring. We greatly increase our share of vocabulary and a decent amount of grammar. Tenses, plurals, conditionals. Language is tricky, but we're getting it piece by piece. And slow though the process is, I'm memorizing more of his language. I think this would be my favorite part. I love learning languages. I would absolutely love to do this. Just figure out another language with an alien. That I think I would give up on saving humanity, and I would just do that. I would just sit there and learn alien language, because at that point, if it's humanity's time to go, it's humanity's time to go. I guess I want to learn alien language. but I'm not as great as Ryland Grace, so. Oh, and slow though the process is, I'm memorizing more of his language. I don't need the computer as often, though I still can't go without it completely. That'll take a long time. I spend an hour every day studying Iridian vocabulary. I made a little script to pick random words from my Excel sheet and play the notes with the MIDI app. Again, a rudimentary program and efficiently written, but computers are fast. I want to be free of the spreadsheet as soon as I can. For now, I still need it all the time, but once in a while, I'll understand an entire sentence without resorting to the computer. Baby steps. Every night I sleep in the tunnel. He watches. I don't know why. We haven't talked about it yet. We've been too busy with other stuff, but he really doesn't want me to sleep without him watching, even if I just want to catch a quick nap. I don't know what just happened outside. Someone just said something. Today, I want to work on an extremely important scientific unit that's been eluding us, mainly because we live in 0G. We need to talk about mass. Yes, kilogram. Right. How do I tell you about a kilogram? I ask. Rocky produces a small ball from a satchel. It's about the size of a ping pong ball. I know mass of this ball. You measure. You tell me how many kilograms ball is. Then I know kilogram. He thought it through. Yes, give me the ball. He hands it on to several support poles with various hands and puts it in the mini airlock. After a few minutes of waiting for it to cool, I have it in my hands. It's smooth and made of metal, fairly dense, I think. How will I measure this? I mumble. 26, Rocky says out of nowhere. What about 26? He points to the ball in my hand. Ball is 26. Oh, I get it. The ball weighs 26 of something, whatever his unit is. Okay, all I have to do is work out the mass of this ball, divide it by 26, and tell him the answer. I understand. The ball is a mass of 26. No, it's not. I pause. It isn't? Is not. Ball is 26. I don't understand. He thinks for a moment, then says, Wait. He disappears into the ship. While he's gone, I speculate on how to weigh something in 0G. It still has mass, of course, but I can't just put it on a scale. There's no gravity. I can't spin up the Hail Mary centrifugal gravity. The tunnel is connected to our nose. I can make a small centrifuge, something big enough for the smallest lab scale I have, rotate at some constant rate with the scale inside, measure something I know the mass of, and then measure the ball. I could calculate the mass of the ball from the ratio of the two measurements, but I'd have to build a consistent centrifuge. How would I do that? I can spin something in the 0G environment of the lab easily enough, but how do I spin it at a constant rate across multiple experiments? Oh, I don't need a constant rate. I just need a string with a mark on the center. I fly into the Hail Mary. Rocky will forgive me for running off. Heck, he can probably observe me from wherever he is on a ship anyway. I bring the ball down to the lab. I stretch. I get a piece of nylon string and tie each end around a plastic sample canister. I now have a string with little buckets at each end. I put the canister next to each other. I put the canisters next to each other and pull the now folded string taut. I use a pen to mark the farthest point. That's the exact center of this contraption. I wave the ball back and forth with my hand to get a feel for its mass, probably less than a pound, less than half a kilogram. I leave everything floating in the lab and kick my way down to the dormitory. Water, I say. Water requested, said the computer. The metal arms hand me a 0G sipper of water, just a plastic pouch with a straw in it that only lets water through if you unlatch a little clip. And inside is 1 liter of water. The arms always give me water a liter at a time. You have to stay hydrated if you want to save the world. I return to the lab. I squirt about half of the water into a sample box and seal it. I put the half depleted sipper into one of the buckets and the metal ball into the other. I set the whole thing spinning in the air. The two masses clearly aren't equal. The lopsided rotation of the two connected containers shows the water side is much heavier. Good, that's what I wanted. I pluck it out of the air and take a sip of water. I start spinning it again. Still off center, but not as bad. I take more sips, do more spins, take more sips, and so on until my little device rotates perfectly around the marked center point. That means the mass of the water is equal to the mass of the ball. I pull out the sippy. I know the density of water. It's 1 kilogram per liter. So all I need to know is the volume of this water to know its mass and therefore the mass of the metal ball. I get a large plastic syringe from the supplies. I can pull a maximum of 100 cc of volume. I attach the syringe to the sippy and unclip the straw. I draw out 100 cc of water, then squirt it into my wastewater box. I repeat this a few more times. The last syringe is only about a quarter full when I empty the bag. Result: 325 cc's of water, which weighs 325 grams. Therefore, Rocky's ball also weighs 325 grams. I don't know why I said 325. 325 grams. I return to the tunnel to tell Rocky all about how smart I am. He balls a fist at me as I enter. You left. Bad. I measured the mass. I made a very smart experiment. He holds up a string with beads on it. 26. The beaded string is just like the ones he sent me back with when we talked about our atmospheres. Oh, I say, it's an atom. That's how he talks about atoms. I count the beads. There are 26 in all. He's talking about element 26, one of the most common elements on Earth. I say, iron, I say. I point at the necklace. Iron. He points to I don't know why I'm taking random pauses, but here we are. We're 2 pages away from chapter 13. He points to the necklace and says, Notes. I record the word in my dictionary. Iron, he says again, pointing to at the necklace. Iron. He points to the ball in my hand. Iron. It takes a second to sink in. Then I slap my forehead. You are bad. It was a fun experiment, but a total waste of time. Rocky was giving me all the information I needed, or trying to at least. I know how dense iron is, and I know how to calculate the volume of a sphere. Getting to mass from there is just a little arithmetic. Pull a pair of calipers out of the toolkit I keep in the tunnel and measure the sphere's diameter. It's 4.3 centimeters. From that, I work out the volume, multiply by the density of iron, and get a much more precise and accurate mass of 328.25 grams. I was only off by 1%, I grumble. You talk to you? Question. Yes, I'm talking to me. Humans are unusual. Yes, I say. Rocky stretches his legs. I sleep now. Wow, I say. This is the first time he's had to sleep since we met. Good. This will provide me some time for some lab work. But how much time? How long do Iridians sleep? I not know. You don't know? You're Iridian. How can you not know how long Iridians sleep? Iridians not know how long sleep lasts. Maybe short time, maybe long time. They sleep unpredictable amounts of time. I guess there's no rule saying sleep has to evolve as a regular pattern. Does he at least know what a range of times it might be? Is there a minimum time? A maximum time? Minimum is 12,265 seconds. Maximum is 42,928 seconds. I often get strangely specific numbers from Rocky on things that should be rough estimates. It took me a while to figure out, but I finally did. He actually is coming up with rough round numbers, but they're in his units in base 6. It's actually easier for him to convert those values to base 10 Earth seconds than it is for him to think directly in Earth seconds. If I converted those values back to Iridian seconds and looked at the numbers in base 6, I bet they'd be some round number, but I'm too lazy. Why unconvert data he already converted? I've never seen him be wrong on arithmetic. Meanwhile, I have to divide by 60 twice on a calculator just to convert from one of my own planet's units to another of my own planet's units. He'll sleep for a minimum of 3.5 hours and a maximum of almost 12 hours. I understand, I say. I head back toward the airlock. You observe? Question? Rocky asks. He watched me sleep, so it's only fair he offered to let me watch him. I'm sure Earth scientists would jump all over the place to learn anything about what an Iridian sleeping looks like, but I finally have time to do some deep analysis of xenonite, and I'm just dying to know how xenon bonds with other elements. If I can get any of my lab equipment to work in zero G, that is. Not necessary. You observe? Question? He asks again. No. Observe. You want me to observe you sleep? Yes. Want. Through unspoken agreement, a triple word means extreme emphasis. Why? I sleep better if you observe. Why? Let's watch each other sleep. Yippee. He waves a few arms, trying to find a way to phrase it. Iridians do that. Iridians watch one another sleep. It's a thing. I should be more culturally sensitive, but he threw shade when I talked to myself. Iridians are unusual. Observe. I sleep better. I don't want to watch a dog sized spider not move for several hours. There's a crew in there, right? Have one of them do it. I point to the ship. Have some other Iridian observe you. No. Why not? I am only Iridian here. My mouth hangs open. You're the only Iridian on that huge ship? He's quiet for a moment, then says, a very long string of notes. Complete nonsense. Did my clutch together translation software fail? I check it out. No, it's working fine. I examine the waveforms. They seem similar to the ones I'd seen before, but they're lower. Come to think of it, the whole sentence seems lower in pitch than anything Rocky has said before. I select the whole segment in the software's recording history and bump it up an octave. The octave is a universal thing, not specific to humans. It means doubling the frequency of every note. The computer immediately translates the results. Original crew was 23. Now it's only me. That octave drop. I think it's emotion. They. Did they die? Yes. I rub my eyes. Wow. The Blip A crew had a the Blip A had a crew of 23. Rocky is the sole survivor, and he's understandably upset about it. What? I stammer. Bad. Bad. I sigh. My original crew was 3. Now it's just me. I put my hand up against the divider. Rocky puts a claw on the divider opposite my hand. Bad. Bad, I say. We stay like that for a moment. I'll watch you sleep. Good. Me sleep. He says, Good. Me sleep, he says. His arms relax and he looks for all the world. Wait. His arms relax and he looks for all the world like a dead bug. He floats free in his side to the tunnel, no longer hanging on any support. Guys, I can't read anymore. His arms relax and he looks for all the world like a dead bug. He floats free in his side of the tunnel, no longer hanging on to any support bars. Well, you're not alone anymore, buddy, I say. Neither of us are. Aw, all their people are dead. That's so sad. They can trauma bond together. All right. I'm sorry, something popped up on my computer and I'm getting rid of it. There we go. All right, I think I can get one more chapter. So I'll only be like 3 chapters behind the original goal, which is pretty solid, I must say. But we're gonna try and get through this chapter, and then we will call it a day for today, and then we'll see you on Friday for our super long reading extravaganza. And I swear, we will get better within the coming months. This is just kind of our test month. We're trying our best here. Mr. Easton, I don't think we need to be searched, said Strahd. I think you do, said the head prison guard. I'm sorry. Why are we in prison? His thick New Zealand accent sounded friendly, but there was an edge to it. This man had made a whole career out of not putting up with people's crap. We're exempt from all. Stop, Easton said. No one gets in or out of Pare without a full search. Auckland Prison, which the locals called Pare, I don't know how to say it, for some reason, was New Zealand's only maximum security prison unit. The sole point of entry was awash with security cameras and a micro scanner for all guests. Even the guards passed through the detector on their way in. Easton's assistant and I stood off to the side while our bosses had their dispute. He and I looked at each other and mutually shrugged, a small fraternity of underlings with stubborn bosses. I'm not turning over my taser. I can call your prime minister if you like, Strott said. Sure, said Easton. She'll tell you the same thing I'm about to tell you now. We don't let weapons anywhere near those animals in there. Even my own guards only have batons. There are some rules we don't change. I'm fully aware of your authority, but it has limits. You're not magical. Mr. E. Torch, Easton said, holding out his hand. I'm sorry, my throat is starting to be sore. His assistant handed over a small flashlight. He clicked it on. Oh, please open your mouth wide, Miss Strott. I need to check for contraband. Whoa, boy. I stepped forward before this got any worse. I'll go first. I opened my mouth wide. Easton shined the light into my mouth and looked this way and that. You're clear. Strott just glared at him. He held the flashlight at the ready. I can get a female guard in here and order a much more thorough search if you like. For a few seconds, she did nothing. Then she pulled her taser from its holster and handed it over. Yes! Finally, someone sticks to distraught. I'm so sick and tired of her. Like, I know the world is about to end in like 30 years. And I know you have the authority to like oversee this whole mission, but that does not mean you can walk over literally everyone. She annoys me way too much. She must have been tired. I never seen her give up on a power trip before, though I also hadn't seen her get into a useless peeing contest before either. She had a lot of authority and wasn't afraid to flex it when needed, but she usually wasn't one to argue when a simple solution was present. Soon guards escorted Strahd and me through the cold gray walls of the prison. What the heck is wrong with you? I said. I don't like little dictators and their little kingdoms, she said. Drives me crazy. You can bend a little once in a while. I'm out of patience and the world is out of time. I held up a finger. No, no, no. You can't just use I'm saving the world as an excuse every time you're a jerk. She thought it over. Yeah, okay, you may have a point. We followed the guards down a long corridor to the maximum security unit. She says she hates little dictators in their little kingdom, but she's literally becoming a little dictator in her own little kingdom, which just so happens to affect the entire world. Maximum security seems like overkill, she said. 7 people died, I reminded her, because of him. It was accidental. It was criminal negligence. He deserves what he got. The guards led us around a corner. We followed along. The whole place was a maze. Why bring me here at all? Science, as always, I said. I sighed. I can't say I like this. Noted. We entered a stark room containing a single metal table. On one side sat a prisoner in a bright orange jumpsuit, a balding man in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. He was handcuffed to the table. He didn't look anything like a threat. Strahd and I sat down opposite him. The guards closed the door behind us. The man looked at us. He tilted his head slightly, waiting for someone to speak. Dr. Robert Riddell, Strahd said. Call me Bob, he said. I'll call you Dr. Riddell. She pulled a file out of her briefcase and looked it over. You're currently serving a life sentence for 7 counts of culpable homicide. That's their excuse for me being here, yes, he said. I piped up. 7 people died on your rig because of your negligence. Seems like a pretty good excuse for you to be here. He shook his head. 7 people died because the control room didn't follow procedure and activated a primary pumping station while workers were still in the reflector tower. It was a horrible accident, but it was an accident. Enlighten us then, I said. If the deaths at your solar farm weren't your fault, why are you here? Because the government thinks I embezzled millions of dollars. And why did they think that? I asked. Because I embezzled millions of dollars. He adjusted his shackled wrists for a more comfortable position. But that had nothing to do with the desk. Nothing. Tell me about your black panel power idea, Schrott said. Black panel, he drew back. It was just an idea. I emailed that anonymously. Schrott rolled her eyes. Do you really think email do you really think email sent from a prison computer lab is anonymous? He looked away. I'm not a computer guy. I'm an engineer. I want to hear more about Black Panel, she said, and if I like what I hear, I could reduce your jail time. So start talking. Why? Bro, don't. Ah, she makes me so mad. He perked up. Well, I mean, okay, what do you want to know about solar thermal power? Strat looked at me. I said, it's when you have a whole bunch of mirrors set up to reflect. Oh, wait, he said, what do you know about solar thermal power? Strat looked at me. I said, it's when you have a whole bunch of mirrors set up to reflect sunlight to the top of a tower. If you get a few hundred square meters of mirror focusing all that sunlight onto a single point, you can heat up water, make it boil, and run a turbine. I turned to Strat. But that's not new. Heck, there's a fully functional solar thermal power plant in Spain right now. If you want to know about it, talk to them. She silenced me with a hand motion. And that's what you were making for New Zealand? Well, he said it was funded by New Zealand, but the idea was to provide power for Africa. Why would New Zealand pay a bunch of money to help Africa? I asked. Because we're nice, Riddell said. Wow, I said, I know New Zealand is pretty cool, and it was going to be a New Zealand owned company that charged for the power. Riddell said, there it is. He leaned forward. Africa needs infrastructure. To do that, they need power, and they have 9 million square kilometers of useless land that gets some of the most intense continuous sunlight on Earth. The Sahara Desert is just sitting there, waiting to give them everything they need. All we needed to do is build the damn power plants. He flopped back in his chair, but every local government wanted a piece of the pie. Graft, bribes, payoffs, you name it. You think I embezzled a lot? Shit, that's nothing compared to what I had to pay in bribes just to build a solar plant in the middle of fucking nowhere. And then, Strauss said, he looked at his shoes. We built a pilot plant, a 1 square kilometer of mirror area, all of it focused on a large metal drum full of water on top of a tower. Boil the water, run a turbine, you know the drill. I had a crew checking the drum for leaks. That when anyone's in the tower, the mirrors are supposed to be angled away, but someone in the control room fired up the whole system when they thought they were starting up a virtual test. He sighed. 7 people, all dead in an instant. At least they didn't suffer much. Someone had to pay. The victims were all New Zealanders, and so am I, so the government came after me. It was a farce of a trial. And the embezzlement, I said? He nodded. Yeah, that came up in the trial too, but it would have gotten away with it if the project had been successful. It would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids. I'm sorry. I'm not to blame here. I mean, yeah, stealing money, okay, I'm guilty of that, but I didn't kill those people, not through negligence or any other means. I said memes. Where were you when the accident happened? Strauss said. He paused. Where were you? She repeated. I was in Monaco on a vacation. You had been there for 3 months on that vacation, gambling away your embezzled money. I have a gambling problem, at least he admitted. He said, I admit that. I mean, it was gambling debt that made me embezzle in the first place. It's a sickness. And what if you had been doing your job instead of going on a bender for 3 months? What if you'd been there the day the accident happened? Would the accident still have happened? His expression was answer enough. Okay, Strauss said, now we're past the excuses and bullshit. You're not going to convince me that you're an innocent scapegoat, and now you know that. So let's move on. Tell me about black panels. Yeah, okay, he composed himself. I've spent my whole life in the energy sector, so obviously astrophage is really interesting to me. A storage medium like that. Man, if it weren't for what it's doing to the sun, it would be the greatest stroke of luck for humanity in history. He shifted in his seat. Nuclear reactors, coal plants, solar thermal plants, in the end, they all do the same thing. Use heat to boil water, use the steam to drive a turbine. But with astrophage, we don't need any of that crap. It turns heat directly into stored energy, and it doesn't even need a big heat differential. Just anything above 96.415 degrees. We know that, I said. I've been using a nuclear reactor's heat to breed up astrophage for the last several months. What you get? Maybe a few grams. My idea can get you 1,000 kilograms per day. In a few years, you'll have enough for the whole Hail Mary mission. It'll take you longer than that to build a ship anyway. All right, you have my attention, I said. Of course, Strahd hadn't told me anything about whatever black panel was. Get a square metal foil. Pretty much any metal will do. Anodize? Anodize it until it's black. Don't paint it, anodize it. Put clear glass over it and leave a 1 centimeter gap between the glass and the foil. Seal the edges with brick, foam, or some other good insulator. Then set it out in the sun. Okay, what good would that do? The black foil will absorb sunlight and get hot. The glass will insulate it from outside air. Any heat loss has to pass through the glass, and that's slow. It reaches an equilibrium temperature well over 100 degrees Celsius. I nod. And at that temperature you can enrich astrophage. Yes, but it would be ridiculously slow, I said. If you had 1 square meter box in ideal weather conditions, say 1,000 watts per square meter of solar energy, it's about half a microgram per day, he said, give or take. That's a far cry from 1,000 kilograms per day. He smiled. It's just a matter of how many square meters you make of it. You'd need 2 trillion square meters to get 1,000 kilograms per day. The Sahara Desert has 9 trillion square meters. My jaw dropped. That went by fast. Explain. I said, he wants to pave a chunk of the Sahara Desert with black panels, like a quarter of the entire Sahara Desert. It'd be the biggest thing ever made by humanity, he said. It'd be starkly visible from space. I glared at him, and it would destroy the ecology of Africa and probably Europe, not as much as the coming ice age will. Strahd held up her hand. Dr. Grace, would it work? I fidgeted. Well, I mean, it's a sound concept, but I don't know if it's even possible to implement. It isn't like making a building or a road. We're talking about literally trillions of these things. Rodell leaned in. That's why I designed the black panels to be made entirely out of foil, glass, and ceramics, all materials we have plenty of here on Earth. Wait, I said, how do the astrophage breed in this scenario? Your black panels will enrich them, sure, and they'll be breed ready, but there are a bunch of steps they need to go through when they breed. Oh, I know, he smirked. We'll have a static magnet in there to give them a magnetic field to follow. They just need to kick off their migration response. Then we'll have a small IR filter on one part of the glass. It'll only let the CO2 IR spectral signature wavelengths through. The astrophage will go there to breed. Then, after dividing, they'll head toward the glass because that's the direction of the sun. We'll have a small pinhole somewhere in the side of the panel for air exchange with the outside. It'll be slow enough that it doesn't cool down the panel, but fast enough to replenish the CO2 used by astrophage while breeding. I opened my mouth to protest, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it. He'd thought it all through. Well, said Strahd, as a breeder system, it's horrible, I said. Way less efficient and far lower yield than my system on the carrier's reactor. But he didn't design for efficiency. He designed it for scalability. That's right, he said. He pointed to Strahd. I hear you have godlike authority over pretty much the whole world right now. That's an exaggeration, she said. Not much of one, though. Riddell continued. Can you get China to reorient their industrial base around making black panels? Not just them, but pretty much every industrial nation on Earth. That's what it would take. She pursed her lips. After a moment, she said, yes. And can you tell the gosh damned, I'm not going to say the GD word, but anyway, the gosh damned corrupt government officials in North Africa to stay out of the way. That part will be easy, she said. When this is all over, those governments will keep the black panels. They'll be the industrial energy powerhouse of the world. See, there we go, he said. Save the world and permanently lift Africa out of poverty while we're at it. Of course, this is all just a theory. I have to develop the black panel and make sure we can mass produce it. I need to be in a lab instead of a prison. Strahd mulled it over. Then she stood. Okay, you're with us. He pumped his fist. Again, I don't like her. I don't like him either. You just gonna straight up take over the entirety of Africa just for this. Like, brother. I'm at like a pause in the. Oh, there's another pause. I might make it to the other pause. I don't know if I can make the entire chapter. I'm going to try. I wake up in my bed, which is mounted to the tunnel wall. That first night was a kludge with duct tape. Since then, I learned that epoxy glue works well on xenonite, so I was able to attach a couple anchor points and mount the mattress properly. I sleep in the tunnel every night now. Rocky insists, and once every 86 hours or so, Rocky sleeps in the tunnel and wants me to watch. Well, he's only slept 3 times so far, so my data on his waking period is a bit sparse, but he's been kind of consistent about on it. I stretch out my arms and yawn. Good morning, Rocky says. It's pitch dark. I turn on the lamp mounted next to the bed. Rocky has an entire workshop set up on his side of the tunnel. He's always making modifications or repairs to something or other. Seems like his ship is constantly in need of repair. Right this moment, he holds an oblong metal device with 2 of his hands and uses another 2 to poke at the innards with needle-like tools. The remaining hand grasps a handle on the wall. Morning, I say. I'm going to eat. I'll be back. Rocky waves absently. Eat. I float down to the dormitory for my morning ritual. I eat a prepackaged breakfast, scrambled eggs with pork sausage, and a bag of hot coffee. It's been a few days since I last cleaned up, and I can smell my own body odor. Not a good sign. So I sponge off at the sponge bath station and get a clean jumpsuit. All this technology, and I haven't seen any means of cleaning clothing. So I've taken to soaking it in water and putting it in the lamp freezer for a while. Kills off all the germs, and those are what cause the smell. Fresh, not clean clothes. I put the jumpsuit on. I've decided today's the day. After a week of honing our language skills, Rocky and I are ready to start having real conversations. I can even understand him without having to look at the translation about a third of the time now. I float back to the tunnel, sipping the last of my coffee. Okay, finally, I think we have the words needed for this discussion. Here goes. I clear my throat. Rocky, I am here because astrophage makes Soul sick, but doesn't make Tau Ceti sick. Are you here for the same reason? Rocky puts the device and his tools on his bandolier and climbs along the support rails to the divider. Good, he understands this is a serious conversation. Yes, no understand why Tau not sick, but Eridani is sick. If astrophage no leave Eridani, my people die. Same, I say, same. If astrophage continues to infect Soul, all the humans will die. Good, same. You and me will save Eridani and Soul. Yes. Why did other humans on your ship die? Question, Rocky asks. Oh, so we're going to talk about that, huh? I rub the back of my head. We slept all the way here. Not a normal sleep, a special sleep, a dangerous sleep, but necessary. My crewmates died, but I didn't. Random luck. Bad, he says. Bad. Why did the other Iridians die? I not know. Everyone got sick. Then everyone died. His voice quavers. I not sick. I not know why. Bad, I say, with a sigh. What kind of sick? He thinks for a moment. I need word. Small life. Small thing. Like astrophage. A radiant body made of many of these things. Cell. I say, my body is many cells also. He says the Iridian word for cell, and I add the tones to my ever-growing dictionary. Cell, he says, my crew have problem with cells. Many cells die. Not infection, not injury, no reason. But not me, never me. Why? Question? I not know. Every individual cell in the affected Iridians die? That sounds horrible. It also sounds like radiation sickness. How am I going to describe that? I shouldn't have to. If there are spacefaring people, they should already understand radiation. We don't have a word for it between us yet, though. Let's work on that. I need a word. Fast-moving hydrogen atoms. Very fast. Hot gas. No, faster than that. Very fast. I try another approach. Space has very, very, very fast hydrogen atoms. They move along the speed of light. They were created by stars long, long, long ago. No, no mass in space. Space is empty. Oh boy, no, that's wrong. There are hydrogen atoms in space. Very, very fast hydrogen atoms. Understand? You didn't know that? No. I stare in shock. How can a civilization develop space travel without ever discovering radiation? Ah, that'll do it. That's why they're all dead. It's because they didn't understand. They got radiation poisoning. We thought Ryland was going to get radiation poisoning, but no, it's the Iridians. Dr. Gray, she said. Dr. Logan, I said. We sat across from each other at a small steel table. It was a tiny room, but spacious by aircraft carrier standards. I didn't quite understand its original purpose, and its name was written in Chinese characters, but I think it was a place for the navigator to look at charts. Thank you for making time to see me, she said. Not a problem. As a rule, we tried to avoid each other. Our relationship had matured from annoyed to each other to very annoyed with each other. I was as much a part of the problem as she was, but we got up on the wrong foot all those months ago back in Geneva and never really improved. Of course, I don't think this is necessary. Neither do I said, but Straw insisted you run this stuff by me, so here we are. I have an idea, but I want your opinion. She pulled out a file and handed it to me. CERN is going to release this paper next week. This is a rough draft, but I know everyone there, so they sent me an advance copy. I opened the folder. Okay, what's it about? They figured out how astrophage stores energy. Really? I gasped. Then I cleared my throat. Really? Yes, and frankly, it's amazing. She pointed to a graph on the first page. Long story short, it's neutrinos. Neutrinos? I shook my head. How the heck? I know, it's very counterintuitive, but there's a large neutrino burst every time they kill an astrophage. They even took samples to the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory and punctured them in the main detector pool. They got a massive number of hits. Astrophage can only contain neutrinos if it's alive, and there's a lot of them in there. How does it make neutrinos? She flipped a few pages in the paper and pointed to another chart. This is more your area than mine, but microbiologists have confirmed astrophage has a lot of free hydrogen ions, raw protons with no electron, zipping around just inside the cell membrane. Yeah, I remember reading about that. It's a group in Russia that found that out. She nodded. CERN is pretty sure that through a mechanism we don't understand, when those protons collide at a high energy and a high enough velocity, their kinetic energy is converted into two neutrinos with opposite momentum vectors. I leaned back, confused. That is really odd. Mass usually doesn't just happen like that. She wiggled her hand. Not quite true. Sometimes gamma rays, when they pass through an atomic nucleus, will spontaneously become an electron and a positron. It's called pair production, so it's not unheard of, but we've never seen neutrinos created that way. That's kind of neat. I never got too deep into atomic physics. I never heard of a pair production before. It's a thing. Okay. Anyway, she said, there's a lot of complicated stuff about neutrinos I won't get into. There are different kinds, and they can even change what kind they are. But the upshot is this: they're an extremely small particle. Their mass is something like 1/20 billionth the mass of a proton. Wait, I said. We know astrophage is always 96.415 degrees Celsius. Temperature is just the velocity of particles inside. So we should be able to calculate the velocity of the particles inside, she said. Yes, we know the average velocity of the protons, and we know their mass, which means we know their kinetic energy. I know where you're going with this, and the answer is yes. It balances. Wow, I put my hand on my forehead. That's amazing. Yes, it is. That was the answer to the long asked question. Why is astrophage's critical temperature what it is? Why not hotter? Why not colder? Astrophage makes neutrinos in pairs by slamming protons together. For the reaction to work, the protons need to collide with a higher kinetic energy than the mass energy of two neutrinos. If you work backward from the mass of a neutrino, you know the velocity those protons have to collide at. And when you know the velocity of particles in an object, you know its temperature. To have enough kinetic energy to make neutrinos, the protons have to be 96.415 degrees Celsius. Oh man, I said. So any heat energy above the critical temperature will just make the protons collide harder. Yes, they'll make neutrinos and have leftover energy. Then they bump into other protons, etc., etc. Any heat energy above the critical temperature will gets quickly converted into neutrinos, but if it drops below critical temperature, the protons are going to slow and neutrino production stops. End result, you can't get it hotter than 96.415 degrees. Not for long anyway. If it gets too cold, the astrophage uses stored energy to heat back up to that temperature, just like any other warm-blooded life form. She gave me a moment to let that sink in. CERN really came through, but a couple of things still bothered me. Okay, and so it makes neutrinos, I said. How does it turn them back into energy? That's the easy part, she said. Neutrinos are what's called Majorana particles. It means the neutrino is its own antiparticle. Basically, every time two neutrinos collide, it's a matter antimatter interaction. They annihilate and become photons. Two photons, actually, with the same wavelength and going opposite directions. And since the wavelength of a photon is based on the energy in a photon, the Petrova wavelength, I yelped. She nodded. Yes, the mass energy of a neutrino is exactly the same as the energy found in one photon of a Petrova wavelength light. This paper is truly groundbreaking. I rested my chin on my hands. Wow, just wow. I guess the only remaining question is how does astrophage keep neutrinos inside? We don't know. Neutrinos routinely pass through the entire planet Earth without hitting a single atom. They're just that small. Well, it's more about quantum wavelengths and probabilities of collision, but suffice to say, neutrinos are famously hard to interact with. But for some reason, astrophage has what we call super cross sectionality. That's just a fancy term meaning nothing can quantum tunnel through it. It goes against every law of particle physics we thought we knew, but it's been proven over and over. Yeah, I tapped my finger on the table. It absorbs all wavelengths of light, even wavelengths that should be too large to interact with it. Yes, she said. Turns out it also collides with all matter with all matter that tries to get by, no matter how unlikely that collision should be. Anyway, as long as an astrophage is alive, it exhibits this super cross sectionality, and that brings us nicely to what I want to talk to you about. Oh, I said, there's more? Yes. She pulled up a diagram of the Hail Mary hull out of her bag. This is what I need you for. I'm working on radiation production for the Hail Mary. I perked up. Of course, astrophage will block it all. Maybe, she said, but I need to know how space radiation works to be sure. I know the broad strokes, but not the details. Please enlighten me. I folded my arms. Well, there's two kinds, really: high energy particles emitted by the sun, and GCRs that are just kind of everywhere. Start with the solar particles, she said. Sure, solar particles are just hydrogen atoms emitted by the sun. Sometimes a magnetic storm on the sun can cause it to spit out a whole bunch of them. Other times it's relatively quiet. And lately, the astrophage infection has been robbing so much energy from the sun that magnetic storms are less common. Horrifying, she said. I know. Did you hear that global warming has been almost undone? She nodded. Humanity's recklessness with our environment accidentally brought us an extra month of time by preheating the planet. We fell in poop and came out smelling like roses, I said. She laughed. I have not heard that one. We don't have that expression in Norwegian. You do now, I smiled. Brother, we don't have that expression. I mean, we have the smell like roses, but we definitely don't have the we fell in poop and came out smelling like roses. But then again, maybe it's another California thing. You do now, I smiled. She looked down at the whole plan, a little faster than I think was necessary, but whatever. How fast do these solar particles travel? She asked. About 400 kilometers per second. Good, we can ignore them. She scribbled a note to herself on the paper. The Hail Mary will be going away faster than that within 8 hours. They won't be able to catch up, let alone do any damage. I whistled. It's really amazing what we're doing. I mean, geez. Astrophage would be the best thing ever if it weren't, destroying the sun. I know, she said. Now tell me about GCRs. Those are trickier, I said. It stands for Galactic Cosmic Rays, she said. And they're not cosmic rays, right? Right, they're just hydrogen ions, protons. But they're going a lot faster. They're going near the speed of light. Why are they called cosmic rays if they're not even electromagnetic emissions? People used to think they were. The name stuck. Do they come from some common source? No, they're omnidirectional. They're made by supernovas, which have happened all over the place. We're just kind of constantly awash with GCRs in all directions, and they're a huge problem for space travel, but not anymore. I leaned forward to look at her schematic again. It was a cross section of a hull. There was a 1 millimeter void between two walls. Are you going to fill that area with astrophage? That's the plan. I pondered the schematic. You want to fill the hull with fuel. Isn't that dangerous? Only if we let it see CO2 band light. If it doesn't see CO2, it won't do anything. And it'll be in the dark between the holes. Dimitri plans to make a fuel slurry out of astrophage and low viscosity oil to make it easier to transport the engines. I want to line the hull with that stuff. I pinched my chin. It could work, but astrophage can die from physical trauma. You can kill one by poking it with a sharp nanostick. Yes, that's why I asked CERN to do some off the books experiments for me as a favor. Sir, wow. CERN will just do whatever you want? Are you like Ministrad or something? She chuckled. Old friends and contacts. Anyway, they found that even particles moving near light speed can't get past astrophage, and none of them seem to kill it either. That actually makes a lot of sense, I said. It evolved to live on the surface of stars. They must get bombarded by energy and very fast moving particles all the time. I think it's hilarious that it can survive literally the sun, but can't survive a poke. A little stabby stabby. She pointed to a zoomed in schematic of the astrophage canals. The entire radiation world will be halted. All we need is a layer of astrophage slurry thick enough to guarantee there's always an astrophage cell in the way of any incoming particles. 1 millimeter should be more than enough. Plus, we don't waste any mass. We'll be using the fuel itself as insulation. And if the crew need the last bit of astrophage, well, consider it a reserve. A reserve that could power New York City for 20,000 years. She looked at the diagram, then back to me. You did all that math in your head? I had some shortcuts. We're dealing with such absurd scales of energy here. I tend to think in New York City years of energy, which is about 1/2 of 1 gram of astrophage. She rubbed her temples, and we need to make 2 million kilograms of it. If we make a mistake along the way, we'll save astrophage the trouble of destroying Hamony? Lord. We'll save astrophage the trouble of destroying humanity by doing it ourselves, I say. Yeah, I think about that a lot. So what do you think? She said. Is this a terrible idea, or could it work? I think it's genius. She smiled and looked away. Uh-oh. I think Dr. Logan is having a rivals to crush thing with Dr. Grace. Woo! Romance in my sci-fi end of days book? Who could have thought? But anyways, we're officially on chapter 14, and that's where I'm going to end it for today. We're only like 40 pages off of the original goal, which isn't that bad. It's pretty solid. 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 4 chapters away from the goal, but that's pretty solid. I'll take it. So I hope you enjoyed this. For any future watchers out there, I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. This is a lot of fun, and it's making learning science actually pretty enjoyable. I'm learning things that I never knew were possible. And little alien dude. We love little alien dude. I love Captain Rocky. But that's where I'm going to leave it off. I will see you on Friday when I'm finally back with my crime bag companion, Kaylee. And we'll finish this book like 2 days before the month ends. Woo! Bye!